All right, welcome to our meeting. Let's start off with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's way extension cords in your thing, isn't it? Or is that
Do we have any
just?
public comments?
Oh, gotcha.
Nice. No department comments?
Your microphone's
So we'll jump right into the appointments. I'll make a motion to appoint John Gray to the Board of Registers beginning April 1st, 2026 through April 1st, 2029.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you, John Gray.
Yes, thank you very much. Discussion, possible vote, Bagnell Elementary School project.
So this was a project that was submitted to the chair of the board as well as myself from some children in the 5th and 6th grade who were looking at pedestrian connections and how to improve the sidewalk connections here in town. So in your packet, you'll find the letter that they had assembled in addition to utilizing technology to perform a survey, which they had quite a few number of residents participate in. Was very jealous of their ability to get the level of participation as we struggle at our own. But as you can see, the area of interest for them was on, I believe it's more so King Street and connecting Salem Street to King Street and looking at constructing about 2 miles worth of sidewalk. In addition to the work that they had performed, they had also had an interview with Arthur Marcos, who is our highway superintendent. So Arthur was kind enough to explain to them the process in which you would need to go forward with getting an estimate together of the supplies and materials and the labor, and they had provided an additional calculation as to how much a project of this nature would cost. So I just wanted to make sure to share this with the board and bring it to your attention and also applaud the students for their work and their effort and their initiative. It's really great to see this level of involvement in the community and starting so young.
Yes, I think in the future, maybe we'll have to use them to get more participation. They really were interested in a sidewalk on Center Street from Salem to King. And because they wanted to be able to walk safely to their friends, which I thought was awesome. And the way they put it together with the graft and everything was phenomenal. And I think we have some of that in the works now already, but unfortunately, the way that things like that move, it's still 3 years out, as you were saying.
Correct. That's the Safe Routes to School project that will connect School Street up to Atwood. And then the second phase of that project would be Atwood to Washington. So you will have sidewalks that run up School Street, connect through, and go all the side to Washington, where there's another existing sidewalk connection all the way up to Main Street. So that is the goal.
So it is in the works, but now we get to learn how to be patient. Anybody have any questions about it? Yes, Ed?
There must be some money available for the streets, Safe Streets Act for these sidewalks. And what they're mentioning is, it makes sense. The kids in that area would walk to school, but they need a sidewalk. Something that should have been done a long time ago. I know when Rennie was here, he was talking about from Yale Street to School Street, Route 97, and the next phase, I think, was going to the church, and I think Baptist Church, and but also it should go all the way to Salem Street. That sidewalk from Washington Street to Salem Street, it's not in great shape, but not wide enough. And I know in the wintertime, most of it, the highway can't plow it, with the sidewalk block, it's not wide enough. Now that needs to be looked at.
I agree. Anybody else? Kathy?
Yes, I agree. I applaud the students for taking the initiative and for using their mathematics, which is great. And also point out that the traffic study that we had done on the intersection of Washington and Salem pointed out that based on the number of cars, we are becoming a town that's a cut-through. And that was unbelievably apparent, a week or so ago, one afternoon, a deer was hit in broad daylight on a straight strip of Salem, just before you kind of cross over into Bradford. And then the very next day, a car, I'm not even sure how they did this, from that same Salem Street, went over, hit the fire hydrant, went, another 25 yards and took out a telephone pole. And all I can say is, thank God that it was cold out, because normally, if it would have been a nice day, people would have been on that sidewalk. Okay, and sidewalks are important. The sidewalks on the other side of Salem Street in South Groveland, they need to be repaired too. There's 2 crosswalks that are not painted, one that goes across Salem Street to Center Street, and one that goes across Salem Street, the Washington Street intersection. And we're supposed to be able to cross that road, but the way people are driving right now, I don't think it's that safe. And yet, still, kids, they ride their bikes to the park. They ride their bikes to Washington Park, and the cars are flying. And I think that we need to make it a priority, because I know in other towns where it has been made a priority, you don't see people going down the street 45, 50 miles an hour like we do in Salem Street. So sidewalks are really important, but the speed that people are driving at right now, that has to stop. This cut through and people flying through the town, that has to stop. Somebody's going to really get hurt.
All right. Becky, anything on the kids in the sidewalk?
Yeah, I just want to give a thank you to, list their names, because it was a big deal, right? So Marcus, James, Stella, Riley, Dominic, Arda, and Harrison were the ones that put this thoughtful proposal together, and it was really awesome, so thank you.
Yeah, I would echo what Becky said.
Awesome. All right, so without anything else, we're going to go on to a contribution from Howard Hill Jr. We have to accept the funds towards the repair of a shed at Riverview Cemetery with an honorary plaque for Beverly J. Hill, who has been a library trustee from 1967 to 1972. Anybody want to make a motion to accept those funds, $5,000?
I'll make a motion, we accept the $5,000 for the, for the library, for the cemetery building.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yes.
As my husband is a cemetery commissioner, Mike Castronellis, I'm going to recuse myself from the vote,
Sounds good.
although I think it's a great donation.
All right, so no other discussion. Call for the vote. All in favor? 4 in favor, 1 recusal. And next up is the water treatment plant, letter of support for federal funding.
So yes, Mr. Chair, I asked this to be placed on the agenda because as we had discussed at our last meeting, and I believe it was select person Watson who brought this forward, is that we have annually submitted projects to Congressman Moulton, Senator Tarr, and Representative Adrian Ramos for their consideration and funding. And for the submission to Senator Warren's office as well as Markey's, we are required to submit additional documentation. And as part of that, it is a letter of support from the Select Board. So we do have a letter of support from the Water and Sewer Commission, but we have, as you see in your packet, drafted a letter from the Select Board to be included, and this specifically is for the water treatment facility. We have asked for other funding for other projects, but from a priority standpoint, we have added this as our top priority.
I'll make a motion to accept the letter.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just had a couple of things. For one, did you, this is the first time with really reviewing this letter, do you have to put specifically that it's for community project funding program, or is this just general? Does it?
It's just general. And
Okay.
then we add it to there's a portal.
Okay.
The portal has like a specific template for the budget. It has all these different specific forms. It has certifications, authorizations.
Got it.
So it just asks for a letter of support in regards to the
Okay.
project.
So they already have like the quantifiable impact, like the number of residents and all that
Correct. That's
good
all
stuff.
part of the
Okay.
narrative, the details, the description. It has the community impact. It also
Perfect.
has, the phases. When will it start? When would it be completed? Is this all the money you need? Are you
Okay.
seeking alternative funding sources? So there's a significant amount of information that we put in the portal.
Got it. Okay, then you're covered. Yes.
May I follow up one question?
Yes.
On the issue of the water treatment plant, I know there's a lawsuit money that we have not gotten yet. Is that correct?
We have some.
Oh, we've gotten some.
Some of the settlement monies, but in addition to the work that we were already doing with the law firm for the major suits that we've joined on.
Yes.
We have also taken the initiative to identify target companies along the Merrimack River that would have directly impacted Groveland and have taken private suit against those those companies.
Okay, is it possible that we could get some kind of a list at some point of, because I know there was mention of zero-interest loans, and then, of course, the lawsuit money, and then this is federal money that we're going after.
Correct, if we're successful.
Right, and is there similar state money to this federal money?
So this is like essentially equivalent to an earmark, so
Okay.
on the congressional level. So we have submitted a project, and the board did review that and did vote on it, and it
Yes.
did have the treatment facility, and we asked both Senator Tar and Representative Ramos for any funding available to go towards the treatment facility, among other projects. And this is specifically on, again, the congressional level to ask if there's any additional funds that they can allocate towards this project as well. So anything would be coupled with the funds that we've already identified and hopefully alleviate the amount of money that we would need to go out to the state drinking water program for.
Okay, so can we get a summary of that at some point? Just, I know a lot of it's pending, but it would just be, it would help kind of bring it into view.
Of course,
And I think for myself and the public as well.
100%. I'll have that for you for your next meeting.
Great.
Thank you. Yes, Ed?
Perhaps it would make sense to put down that we had voted millions of dollars towards it, and just let them know that it's in the talking stages, it's got to be done, and the town can't go and do it themselves. They're going to need some state or federal assistance to swing this.
100%.
And I think that it should be listed in there, the fact that we had voted it, and the amount of money, and I forget now what it was exactly.
It was up to, I think, $44.3
I
million.
was going to say 45 million. It's a lot.
But certainly, we can adjust the letter to include that information as well.
I'm just wondering if anybody else we could, federal agency that we could send a letter to, Department of Environmental Protection, I don't know if that's something that they handle it.
Yeah, we can definitely reach out to additional agencies to see if there's additional programs or monies or just support that they could lend.
Yeah, Federal Department of Public Health or something.
It's all relevant at that point.
Even State Department of Public Health.
Anybody else?
No.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Next is Select Board Policies and Code of Conduct. Kathy?
I applaud the effort. I think we definitely have to do this. I'm just wondering, time-wise, if we would be better off to do this after we get our town meeting warrant posted. But unless, if the pleasure of the board is to do this tonight, I think it's not going to take just a couple of minutes. There's various aspects of this that I think we just need to discuss and flesh out. And I know, Jason, you and I worked on things like this, so we're familiar with some of the language and all, but, as you make new policies, you want to just make sure that we can follow them and that they're reasonable. And not to say these aren't, I know, Steve, I think you did this, right? You did an admirable job, you did a lot of work.
Can I just point of order? This came
And-
from town council, not from me.
I thought this was your agenda item,
Nope.
so you didn't do any of these.
Is that, yeah, that all came from town council.
So
Okay, well,
The conversation was initiated by Select Board Member Baker about concerns about the First Amendment right and freedom of speech, and it called questions specifically into our public comment policy.
Yeah.
That led us to ask council to review our policies in a little bit more detail. So they did provide a little additional investigation into our policies and had proposed the following that you see in your packet.
well, that being the case, then would the members of the board be all right with tabling this so we can do our warrant
Is
tonight?
that your roundabout motion?
Yes, I didn't want to just
Do you
make
have a
it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Motion and second, all in favor of tabling that? Unanimous?
Okay.
Community Preservation Committee Proposal 2026 Projects and Correspondence Warrant Articles.
Okay. My packet is a little out of order, I think.
Are you going to go to the Kentucket?
Sorry, I was asleep at the wheel back there.
That's okay. Let me just find it. I know I saw it.
Oh, I thought that was after everything.
Okay, that's all right. You jumped it. I'm just trying to find it. It's,
That was the insert. Go ahead.
Do you want to run off the articles and I will give you a synopsis of them? I don't, how would you like to approach this?
Run down your list.
All right, so first one we have is the Affordable Housing Trust bylaw.
yes.
This bylaw is a result of a 2025 CPA project, and it will establish an affordable housing trust. That's going to be the first step to access the CPA affordable housing funds that are approximately $1 million, as well as the funds acquired with the inclusionary zoning bylaw, which is approximately $800,000. Once established, the trust could begin multiple programs aimed at helping support low and moderate income individuals and households.
Anybody have any questions for Adam in regards to that?
No question. I'm glad that we're doing this finally.
Yes, we've made a lot of attempts at trying to allocate these funds properly and,
I have a question.
yes, good.
I believe that we did speak at one point about the funds that have been set aside by the planning board for affordable housing. Those aren't included in the article?
So this particular warrant article isn't about allocation of funds. It's about the creation of the Affordable Housing Trust and the actual Board of Trustees.
Oh, it is, okay.
Once that's been established, then we can talk about the inclusionary zoning funds, which are the set-asides if you do not create affordable housing, and that's the account you're referencing by the planning board, in addition to the CPA funds that could potentially be set aside for such use as well.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Anybody else? Next.
Next up, this is our CPA set-asides. This is a requirement of CPAs to set aside 10% of funding into open space, historic preservation, and community housing categories. As well, we're going to do a $35,000 set-aside for administrative expenses. Any money that's not spent for administrative expenses will revert back to the general recreation category, as well as the other leftover that isn't part of the 10% allocated to each of those categories. This year, we're at 72,000, I believe is our 10%.
Nice.
Can I ask, what was the state match this year?
16.5, and they're projecting 15.5 for the first round of funding next year. We're eligible for 3 rounds of funding, but they don't issue a projection for round 2 or round 3.
Okay, so when you say 16.5, are you talking percent or dollars?
Percent.
Okay, so 16% match of our CPA collections, and that's round 1, right?
That was all in this year, was around 16.5
Okay, for this year.
for this year. For this
round.
upcoming year, they're projecting the first round to be 15.5.
Okay, and then there's a second and third.
Second and third round, depending how much money is left over.
Okay, so last year, what was our total percentage match?
16 and a half.
That doesn't seem to match with what we presented last year.
Last year, we would have been presented with the previous year.
With the second and third rounds.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the articles.
I'll get the exact numbers over to you. so
Okay,
just so
thank
you
you.
have them.
Yeah, I do like to track that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Any other questions? Next?
All right, so now we're moving into the projects that were proposed this year. First one we have is CPA acknowledgement signs. This project will provide for the design and installation of acknowledgement signage at approximately 20 CPA projects that were completed prior to the CPC mandating signage be covered in project applications. By doing so, this is going to show the residents how and where their CPA dollars are being spent. And that is for $32,760 out of the general/recreation category.
I think that's important.
Yes, do we have a design look for the signs?
There was an initial proposed design,
Okay,
still kind of a lot of TBD.
okay. It'll be nice.
I was thinking like a poster board hung up with duct tape.
Oh, God,
on the
okay, all
Sharpie,
right.
but-
You would say that. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that. Okay, I hope they look like, not like road signs.
No, they'll look nice. They look nice.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions regarding the signs for the CPC? Next,
Next up, we have the Bagnell Basketball Courts and Play Area. This is for $250,800 out of the general/recreation category. This project will address issues in the Bagnell School play area, specifically replacement of the existing basketball court and addition of a new play area featuring hopscotch, foursquare, etc. It will also repave the play area adjacent to the playground. The CPC, when we were going over this, we amended the original project application to remove designated parking spaces in an effort to enhance safety, provide a larger play area, as well as follow CPA regulations.
are we going to be utilizing a highway for any of that?
No.
No?
Nope.
Okay.
Aside from Arthur will be involved in running the project, but
Go ahead, Kathy.
So the basketball courts will be behind the Bagnell School?
there's currently basketball courts there. It's really like busted up pavement. They're gonna rip that out, put a nice concrete, paint the lines on it.
Okay.
So
Are they
it's,
gonna-
it's like off to the back left-hand side if you're looking at the school.
Okay, but it's not usable during the day until after school?
Correct.
And will it be fenced in or not fenced in?
It'll have a backstop, but it won't be completely fenced in.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No questions. Again, this is another project that I think is really important. That area has needed some love for a while.
This will tie into it's right next to the playground that was built over there, a few years prior. Kind of finish off the whole area.
Next,
Next up, we have completion of the Vito Hand Tub Museum. This is $86,500 from the Historic Preservation category. This project will complete the Vito Hand Tub Museum. Project includes upgrading lighting, constructing an elevated platform, installing display cases, and providing storyboards, as well as the cosmetic restoration of the Vito Hand Tub. And just of note, the 2017 Vito Phase 2 project that was extended at last year's town meeting for $52,825 has been closed and the funds returned as it was determined the funds were not sufficient to complete the proposed project.
it's my understanding this is a project that you now are more heavily involved in.
Yes, this is my project. I took one for the team here. I'd like to see it get done, the amount of time and effort that's been put into it. Let's try and get it across the line.
That'll be awesome. Any other questions or comments, Ed? No. No?
Does this include a grand opening party? Because this is kind of a big deal.
I'll pay for the grand opening
There you
party.
go, okay.
So what is the bulk of the money for?
About $20,000 is for the restoration of the Vito itself. There's probably $5,000 in electrical work to upgrade the lighting, and the rest will be replace the flooring, build the platform, new ceiling, new light, light fixtures, display cases.
Why do we need a new floor?
The way they want it, they want to have it look like it's an old firehouse with a wood look floor instead of the carpet.
Okay. And who is doing the restoration of the Vito itself?
Well, it's all going to have to go out to bid, but it was proposed, I had a resident in town who owns an auto body shop come and give an estimate on it. Paint a car, you paint wood, it's all the same stuff.
So who's going to paint the Vito?
Yep. Fresh coat of paint, patch all the rot holes, we'll letter it all up, put some nice gold leaf on it. It's in pretty rough shape. Looks good from 20 feet, but if you get right up on it, it's,
I know, but is that going to preserve it? I mean, has a historic person like looked at it? Because it's really old.
it is really
I would just
old.
be concerned about materials and the preservation of it. That doesn't fall apart.
It's,
And you try to, you know what I'm saying?
It's one of the reasons why we should move forward with that.
it's already been,
Restoration.
it's not in its original condition as it is. It's already been repaired once.
Yes, I understand that.
So to strip it down and do a complete historic, accurate, rebuilding of it would be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, okay. So we're going to paint it, okay.
Anything else? Next.
Next up, we have Perry Park Phase 2, $59,000 from the general recreation category. This project will complete 100% construction documents for the rehabilitation of Perry Park. Once documents are finalized, grants can be applied for to fund construction. So this is to piggyback on a project from last year, which was the conceptual design and 50% construction drawings.
Did any of the previous or this one include the mitigation of the knotweed that's down there?
That was the first phase, yes.
First phase?
Yep,
And that's been completed?
yes.
Perfect. Any other questions?
Have we done a survey? Do we have it staked? Do we know what parts of the property are town-owned?
I don't have the answer to that.
Okay.
Yes, Ed?
When this project came before the CPA board, I spoke against it, based upon the fact that this is Phase 2, and reading in the paperwork, at the 30% preliminary design stage, the estimated construction cost is $698,083. That's so, it's going to come in at more than that, and they're looking at some, might reduce the cost with some grants or something. But, so Phase 3, we're going to be looking at $698,000. And this is for a, probably about a 2.5 acre piece of land. And with some walking trails and a gazebo. But, we have, this is gonna have to be mowed, maintained by our highway department, and they're pretty well taxed out the way they are. You only have like 4 employees, and it's just gonna keep adding, they gotta do this, they gotta do that. At some point, we're gonna need to add employees to the highway department to pick up some of the slack. So, before this got to the 30%, it got to the third phase, but almost 700,000, I think it ought to be stopped at this point. And there's nothing wrong with what you got there right now. And you're talking about a park that's, less than a half a mile for the Pines. And they want to recreation or passive recreation or whatever they want to call it, let them go down to the Pines. It's not that far. And I just think that it just doesn't make sense to be spending all that money. By the time we get done, we'll probably spend close to $1 million on this, on 2.5 acres of land. That's pretty expensive.
Doesn't the highway department mow it now already?
They do mow it now, and just for point of clarification, there was a survey performed as part of Phase 1.
And don't we hire additional part-time employees to help with the mowing during the summer months?
We do.
Yes. So, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I could, Perry Park is centrally located in our town, near a historic monument. It always used to be well-maintained, and then it fell into disrepair, and with the invasive species, we lost a good portion of that parkland. So to do nothing would be to just allow it to continue to disintegrate into a wasteland with invasive species and cars parked all over it. If that's what a town meeting wants to vote to do with that land, that would be their prerogative, but I would prefer to see that we step forward and take careful steps, minimize costs, but try to restore this to some of its natural beauty.
The, speaking of the monument, wasn't that part of Perry Park? Wasn't that part of the original?
The little one that's in the triangle of the
Yeah.
road now, yeah, they're going to reincorporate that in the conceptual plan.
That's what I thought. And that does need a little bit of work, for sure. Anybody else have any other questions, comments? No? Next.
Just, Rebecca was kind enough to pull up last year's match on the screen. There was
Oh.
35.3.
Very nice, thank you.
All right. Next up, we have the Pines Recreation Area Lighting Design. This project will design and engineer lighting for the following areas at the Pines Recreation: baseball field, skate park, basketball court, tennis and pickleball courts, playground, the large grass area currently used for football practice, and replacement of the lighting on the current softball field with energy-efficient LED lighting. 100% construction documents, project phasing, and bid support will also be provided by this project. That's for $137,500 out of the general/recreation category.
I
Questions?
have one.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Well, just because I went to the presentation on the dark skies and they spoke about the lighting that they're now using on some of the tennis courts that are played on by professionals, where the lighting does not splay out to the side, so there's less light pollution, and it goes down directly, it still illuminates beautifully.
Yep,
Are we going to be using that type of lighting?
we are.
Thank you.
And I know that the plan is to phase out the lighting as we go forward from the design.
Correct, and they're going to assist with the phasing of the project.
Okay, is there been any priorities set for like football, who obviously rents lights now to be able to utilize it?
So my take on it, and I'm just one cog in the wheel of this project, is the first phase would be laying down the infrastructure to carry everything. And at that point, we can start the discussion. I'm of the mind as well that either the baseball field or where the football is should be the first up,
Okay, perfect.
but TBD.
Very nice. Any other questions? Next.
Next up, we have Shanahan Field bathrooms, $297,550 from the general recreation category. This project will replace the current RV-style restroom facility at Shanahan Field. Bathrooms will be tied into the sewer at Main Street. The current bathroom structure will be demolished and removed, and an ADA accessible walkway will be constructed between the parking lot and the bathroom facilities.
And I imagine we'll be able to utilize a similar system to the automatic locks that we're using at the Pines.
100%.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
So we're tying down to, so we're going to go all the way down Washington Street, and how far up, you said it's tying in at Main Street,
Tie in on Main Street, right in front.
right?
It's
So we're
right-
going,
it's right next to the field. It's right in Main Street. There's actually a manhole right.
Did you jump ahead to Washington?
oh, yes, I'm so sorry, I'm not thinking of Shin. Never mind, save that for Washington. Good Lord, you scared me. At Main Street, I thought, there goes Washington Street. You're right,
It could use fresh pavement.
Yeah.
not a bad thought, not a bad thought, thank you. I did jump ahead, thank you.
All right. Well, on that note, let me jump to the Washington Park bathrooms, which is the next project.
Yep.
$281,050 from the general recreation category.
This will be separate.
This project will provide a new restroom facility at Washington Park. The bathrooms will be connected to a new septic system. Currently, only porta potties exist and are funded and controlled by the Groveland Baseball League. This project will provide access to facilities for residents using the basketball courts, the playground, as well as the baseball fields.
And they won't be like the little RV-type bathrooms that we
These
don't
are,
have
these are very similar to what's at the Pines.
Okay, good. Any other questions regarding the bathrooms at Washington?
Bathrooms are expensive.
Yes, yes, yeah, the buildings and the construction, yes.
Yes.
Shipping them here.
I think they're a very good use of the CPC funds.
Yeah.
We have it, makes you nice. Okay. Next,
Next up, Groveland Community Garden Phase 2. This project will make a utility connection to town water and install hose bibs for the community garden in the old dog park area at the
Bless
Pines
you.
Recreation. Once water connections are made, grants will be applied for to construct raised beds. This is for $16,278 out of the general/recreation category. The CPC, when we took on this application, we amended it to add money for reloaming and reseeding, as requested by the highway superintendent.
Okay.
it'll be for re-leveling the area, because I know that's a pretty good slope and some of it is washed up against the fence. And
I don't know that they were gonna dig like right along the softball field fence, and Arthur was concerned that, you know, they wanted to put back whatever was there. I don't think it's gonna be that intrusive of a project. They're only using a ditch witch to go in 12 inches, but
Perfect.
nonetheless, we'll cover for it.
Anybody else have any questions regarding that?
No.
Next,
All right. Next up, last one, the Crosstown Trail Project. $109,600 from the general/recreation category. This project will create a trail connecting Main Street to existing town forest trails via an existing easement through Nichols Village. Further connections are intended to be made to the West Newbury Trail System as well as the Crane Pond Reservation. The CPC, when we went through this, we made a handful of amendments to it. One being there was a proposed loop trail shown as Town Forest Parcel 4L. It had some fairly significant opposition to it, so we asked that be removed. The applicant obliged. And then we also added the stipulation that outside of the construction on the existing Nichols Village easement, no other construction will begin until all other easements are in place. Another thing of note on this one, the existing Crosstown Trail project approved at the 2021 town meeting for the amount of $18,000 was determined to be insufficient. The project has been closed and the funds have been returned.
perfect. Any questions regarding this project? Awesome. Thank you very much for the presentation.
My pleasure.
So now I think I'll make a motion to close the annual town meeting warrant.
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor? And the warrant is closed. When will that be posted?
Depends on how far we get through the warrant this evening, but I would imagine the plan is to meet again next week and to have it posted by Friday, which will be April 10th, and then that will give us the 14 days prior to town meeting on April 27th.
Perfect. So now I guess we'll move on to the review of the 2027 budget. Review
If
and
we
approval.
could go back to letter E.
I want to put that off until after we go through the warrant as much as possible. Because I really want to make sure we can get through the majority of that warrant. I think that's important. unless you really, really would like to discuss that now.
I think it pertains to the warrant, but if we can go
Okay.
to the warrant quickly, we can
I
go to
think,
the
I think it
warrant.
pertains to the budget, so I think you're probably right. So we'll discuss the Pentucket Regional School District enrollment.
Okay, and so, and I won't occupy that much time with it. As you all know, with the help of a town administrator, I've been studying the enrollment figures that Pentucket uses to allocate our budget, as opposed to the enrollment figures that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education publishes to distribute our required minimum contribution. Both are parts of the assessment that the town pays. And it took a while to kind of unravel what seems to be going on, but I believe after looking at the itemized SIMS data, which is the Student Information Management System, where I got the actual data dump that Pentucket sends to DESE, I was able to recreate the grades and compare. And it appears to me, from what I've looked at, and I've forwarded to our town administrator for review as well, that one of the primary differences is that the Pentucket allocation of budget does not include homeschooled students. And it's a fairly large category. So when we look at like our percentage assessment, even a percentage change of like 0.4%, like 39.5%, which is what Pentucket is assessing us, the second step, which includes the override, versus 39.19%, which is what DESE says our share should be, we're talking $300,000. So it is necessary, I think, an imperative that we get this locked down, and we've taken, I believe, the first steps towards that. And we will be sending a legal letter to the Pentucket Regional School District informing them of the discrepancy in the enrollment numbers and stressing that we want to pay our fair share, but we certainly don't want to pay more than our fair share. It's not fair to our residents. And this discrepancy has been going on for several years. We found other errors in other years, so it might have kind of confused the issue, but I think now, looking at this FY27 data, I feel fairly sure that I've isolated the difference, and the town administrator has provided me with 4 additional back years from DESE. I'm going to double-check those years as well. So it doesn't affect what we're going to ask our town meeting to approve. We need to pay our share of the Pentucket budget, but we do need to have this resolved going forward. So it is important.
And if I could add, may I? So, in regards to this conversation, if you all recall, I sent an email over to the school committee on March 4th advising them that there were concerns with the enrollment numbers, in which case you all were copied on the email that was sent back to me from the superintendent saying that this is a good question, it's a tale as old as time, it's always been a back and forth kind of thing, it's very confusing. I then responded to that email and was invited to have an additional conversation with the superintendent, the business manager, as well as the town administrator in Merrimack and the town manager in West Newbury. They also brought in the employee that deals directly with the SIMS data that's submitted to the state that comes up with these figures. And we did have a really good conversation. I think a lot of it is based upon confusion because once the enrollment numbers are identified through the foundation process, through the state, they do apply percentages and weights to those numbers, and that's how our formula and funding are all derived. However, the initial data, the enrollment data, is very clear, and that seems to be the disconnect there. So because of the fact that we also share town council with Merrimack, we engaged with outside counsel to further explore this issue and to identify what it is that we could do moving forward. And so, as Select Board Member Castronellis had mentioned, we're kind of in a tough spot because if, in fact, Merrimack approves their budget allocation and West Newbury approves their allocation, we have to come up with the allocation. It doesn't matter if, in fact, the way they use enrollment is incorrect. So that being said, we don't have many options at our disposal. But as Kathy had mentioned, moving forward, we really need to get this rectified. And town council has stated or outside counsel representing us has stated that they believe it needs to be the foundation enrollment numbers. That is the number that they should, as part of the two-step method. If the argument is in fact that that's not how the regional agreement is stated, then we can take that approach as well, but it only actually influences the school in a negative fashion. Because if you do take the literal interpretation, it does not include pre-K, it does not include choice out students, and it does not include homeschool or other students that they're including in the percentage, which is actually students that we are in fact financially responsible for. But if we're looking at a literal interpretation of the agreement, those students should not be included. So we're just asking the district to move forward with the foundation enrollment as identified in this two-step process and correct that for the upcoming fiscal year. The other way that we can approach it is to try and get the regional agreement amended. As you all recall, we did have a committee that was set aside. We went through months and months of process. We finally identified areas that all three communities could agree on. We submitted those to DESE, and they ripped apart the entire agreement. And we went back to them and we had a meeting and we're like, we're not sure exactly what happened. Those changes were done in 2019. Why are we, having to go over them now? And they said that we originally did not go through the correct process in 2019. And in order for us to move forward with the changes we wanted to move forward with, we needed to correct the changes that were not done in the past. So again, because time is never on our side, it did not work out for us to move forward. Things fell to the wayside, so we find ourselves with a regional agreement that hasn't been updated since 2022. So we carry it forward moving in a forward progression. However, we do need to change the regional agreement. But that, again, is not going to work in our favor because that's going to require an annual town meeting vote in all three communities in order to be done correctly, as well as to have DESE approval prior to that. So the likelihood of getting that accomplished for fiscal year '28 is unlikely. So again, that should not mean that we do not have the conversation about the enrollment. So council has advised to send a letter that they will draft to the school committee and the superintendent, alerting them that they need to follow the regional agreement. And if they're not going to follow it by using the foundation enrollment, then they need to follow it to the literal interpretation if that is what in fact they're arguing, which means that those enrollment numbers are severely reduced.
Anybody have any questions for Rebecca or Kathy?
And I don't know if it's worthwhile, but I can share on the screen the information that Select Board Member Castronellis had put together, which shows the financial implications that we have in our budget. And this is not just for the operating assessment. This is for the monies that we set aside for the capital improvements for the school, which includes the new middle high school as well.
Well, I'd like to say thank you for doing this. I know that you've spent a lot of hours over the years monitoring and going through this and learning all about this to help protect the town.
I think
So I
the
think
town
we
administrator, I
appreciate it.
give her a high five for getting in there with the DESE people and getting me the actual data that I needed, broken down in a format that finally the light bulb turned on, and I said, I get it. DESE counts homeschooled students. Of course, they were financially responsible for them, and Pentucket does not. And as you can see, one town benefits from this with the reduction in their second step assessment. The other two towns pick up more. That's what that's showing you. And by more, I don't mean just reallocation of the budget within the town. We're talking override, too.
Yeah.
So this is a good first step, the lawyer letter, and I think I'm hopeful now that I've been able to kind of isolate exactly what it is. The conversation could be more specific, which should be helpful.
Yeah, thank
And the
you
numbers
both.
should always tie to something.
Right.
Exactly.
Because this is the start. This is where it all the calculations come from these numbers. So if these aren't right, that's it. It's done.
Right.
So I think it's important, like you said, we're stuck in that gray area of the regional agreement. I remember those, all the purple marks all over it, and I get it. That's a work in progress. But in the meantime, these numbers are definitive. A number's a number.
Right, and they're the numbers that are submitted to get the Chapter 78.
Right.
So the numbers we're submitting are a student head count, and Pentucket is using a different student head count. basically. And I'm not sure that they quite knew that, to be fair to them. It took me a while.
Right.
Yeah, I think as was pointed out, it wasn't clearly specified in the agreement where it has in some of the other agreements. So there's a little bit of room for gray.
Yep, absolutely, and this should hopefully bring clarity. I think Town Administrator Rebecca Oldham has done an admirable job keeping her cool, going to meeting after meeting, conversation after conversation, emails with the DESI, to finally get them to really break it down for us so we can understand it, and then we could tie it out. And that was the final click. Yep.
All right, perfect. Shall we move on to the
To the budget.
budget?
Yep.
So we did have a brief presentation of the budget at the last meeting. It was at the tail end of the meeting, so I think it was about 10 o'clock at night, so we did rush through it. So I do appreciate your patience as we went through everything. And in true fashion, I have some amendments. So if you had taken a look at your packet, I had submitted an amended version of the budget. I did make printed copies for both Jason and Ed, so you should have those in front of you. The amendments have been approved and discussed with the Finance Board, and they did approve the entire budget as presented. I'm just trying to pull it up on the screen right now so that you can see exactly where the changes are. Share my screen. So what you will see here is the FY '27 proposed, which is the budget that we went through at our last meeting, and the FY '27 proposed amended as of 3/18. And the biggest area of change that you will see is in the Board of Health line. So scrolling down to the Board of Health. Sorry, the screen's a little sensitive, it went way too far. There we go. So this is the Board of Health budget. So as you'll see, the original proposed had the health nurse line item, the part-time clerk wages, as well as the health sanitation agent wages, and that is the health agent, not the health nurse. And you'll see that on the amended version, that the health nurse hours had been reduced to 2%, still giving that particular position a 2% cost of living increase. The clerk wages remained the same, and then the health agent line item increased significantly. And then you'll also see that in the expense line item, we took $1,000 there, and then we also added or made adjustments to, made adjustments to the town accountant expense line, as well as the assessor's evaluation line item, that we had taken a closer look at the contract and identified that there was some contingencies there could utilized elsewhere.
Could we go back, what was the change, the nurse, health nurse went down,
The health nurse line went from
4,006
$31,972 to $26,677, which was a reduction of $4,668, and that was to bring the 12-hour-a-week position down to 10 hours a week.
okay,
And then the health agent line went from $44,432 to $51,387, which was an increase of $7,826.
okay.
And that was to bring the hours of the position up to 20 hours a week. And then we reduced the expense line item by 1,000, and then we found the other monies in the accountant line item for the expenses, as well as the assessor's line.
So the health sanitation agent is up $7,800, right?
Correct.
And that's an increase in hours of how much?
Correct. The proposal is to go from 17 hours to 20 hours.
Okay.
And the reason that we had done that is, if you recall, as part of the narrative that was put forward for the Board of Health is that there's some severe concerns with the fact that we have not had a health agent for the last year. That does impact us immensely when we're talking about septic systems and approvals and perk tests, et cetera. And so we have been fortunate to be able to partner with the surrounding community to have one of their health agents pitch in for some of those inspections so that we can move things along and building permits don't get placed on hold and we can have septic systems replaced as needed. However, that is a temporary solution. And as we discussed at our former meeting, the regional collaboration that we're involved with is really focused on other aspects of the health agent position, more so on the side of restaurants and those types of inspections. So an opportunity presented itself where we could potentially take advantage of a shared health agent with another neighboring community who also does not have as much hours for their health agent. And in order to take advantage of that, we needed to increase the hours. So the Board of Health Chair had approached me about trying to do something sooner rather than later. And so since the budget had not yet been approved, we were able to make those adjustments and to give the Board of Health an opportunity, if one did present itself, to utilize the monies in that direction. They don't have to necessarily, because we vote the budget per salaries and expenses, but if it did become something that they could do, the budget would allow them to do so. So it's not set in stone that we would be able to move in that direction, but it is a desire of the Board of Health to make sure that they have that opportunity, of, again, if it does present itself. So the bottom line does not change from the original budget proposed. There's still $96 remaining.
Okay, so we want to increase the hours to 20 so that if we find a town that wants to share the position, we would share the benefits as well, because 20 is benefit eligible, right?
We would
And
have to put
17
together an
is-
agreement, just like we did for our building inspector, correct?
Right. And if we can't find one to share, are we going to go ahead and hire one at 20 hours if we can?
It gives us the opportunity to figure out what we want to do. Do we want to hold on that, or do we want to move
Okay.
forward with offering the position at the 20 hours benefit eligible?
Okay,
Correct.
thank you. That makes sense.
It's more so just creating
options.
opportunities within the budget when we're still kind of up in the air trying to figure out what we can do.
Yep, okay. All right.
But otherwise, there are no other changes within the budget that you reviewed the first time that we went through this. And specifically for the accountant, you'll see that there was the reduction in the education and association fees of $440. And then you'll see in the assessor's line, it was in the reevaluation and maintenance line for $7,000.
Okay. Could we put numbers on these lines?
They're on the lines.
I don't have numbers on mine. Okay, so maybe it's just the download.
They're up on the screen. You can see all of the
Are you talking
the
about row
proposed
numbers?
changes, the.
I'm talking about
monitoring.
one, like when we say
Like
where, because
rows.
it's a little different order of the warrant, of the thing. You started with debt, right? Usually
Correct. It's
start
just
with-
by alphabet, yeah.
Okay, and that's fine. I just was, scrolling, trying to find the lines you were referring to.
Yes.
You know what I mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I just, like if you say line 35 begins economic development and planning.
Correct. We could do that.
Okay, thank you. I just hate to hold you up, okay.
Anybody else have any questions for Rebecca regarding the budget?
No.
So shall we approve it?
Yeah, let me just, I'll read the number, I'll get to the bottom. So, the number that's being recommended is 25,041,477? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I'll make a motion to recommend favorable on the budget as presented for a total of $25,041,477 as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion is second, any other discussion? All in favor? Unanimous.
Okay, good.
And now we can start our annual town meeting warrant review.
I'm not sure how the board would like to tackle this, if you'd like to go through each individual article and take it vote by vote, or if you want to take them as a lump sum in each of the categories. As you'll see in your packet, I did what we had done in the prior town meeting warrant, and we separated them out into matters of general government, general bylaw, zoning bylaw, community preservation, appropriations, and the enterprise fund. So we can do article by article, or we can lump them together, whatever the board so chooses.
Does anybody have a problem with putting them together?
Well, as long as they're relatable, you know. I mean, so Article 2 and Article 3 are very different. So Article 2 is just putting more protection on a parcel that's already protected.
Correct. So do you want to go article by article, and I'll put the warrant up on the screen so you don't have to read the
Yeah,
entire
we
thing?
usually, we can go pretty quickly, I think. I mean,
This has less articles than last year, right?
I would recommend favorable on Article 2.
You running ahead?
You wanna,
No, well, we don't do Article 1, right, do we? No. Article 2 is the first one we recommend on. You're laughing at me, why? What have I done? Everybody's laughing, okay, I don't know the joke, but I think we should recommend favorable on Article 2. There.
everybody agree?
Sure.
So the
Gonna-
board will recommend favorable for Article 2.
Aye. Aye.
Unanimous.
Unanimous, there we go. Favorable.
Do you want to read the summary? Article 3, summary. This would provide the Select Board the authority to lease residential property at VZ Memorial Park and the Conservation Commission to rent the on-site buildings for short-term rentals.
And this we need, so I recommend favorable action on Article 3.
And how's the board vote? In favorable? Unanimous.
Okay.
Do me read Article,
Go ahead.
all right, Article 4, the summary. This would allow the Conservation Commission to rent the on-site buildings for short-term rentals.
And we need that, so I recommend favorable on Article 4.
Favorable on Article 4.
Favorable.
How's the board vote?
Yep.
Unanimous.
Okay, Article 5, summary. At the 2025 annual town meeting, the town voted to accept a deed in lieu of foreclosure from Woodard and Curran Incorporated, or the then current owners pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 60, Section 77C. However, the town did not vote to authorize the disposition of the property. This article seeks authorization for the Select Board to sell the property for one single-family residence.
I recommend favorable.
I just have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Have we had that property appraised? Do we know what the value is?
We have not had it appraised. We do have it before our, we have a contract, the name of the firm is escaping me, who does all of our property evaluations. And so he's taking a look, and whatever he provides will provide the basis as to how we go forward. But we do know that a buildable lot in Groveland goes for about $200,000.
Perfect, thanks.
Very welcome. So how's the board vote? Favorable?
Favorable? Thank you.
Favorable? Unanimous.
Okay.
6?
All right, Article 6, hold on. I love the summaries, by the way. They're really helpful. Article 6 summary, the adopted town administrator bylaw places the responsibility on the town administrator to prepare and present the capital improvement plan. The bylaw has been updated to formalize the process and ensure this process is clearly established and consistently followed.
I recommend favorable. Anybody have any questions?
I'm just looking through the details of it.
The purpose and definition?
Yep, it's good.
Good?
Yep, should we vote? Favorable.
Everybody favorable? Unanimous? 7?
All right, Article 7, summary. The adopted town administrator bylaw places responsibility on the town administrator for overseeing personnel-related policies and processes. The bylaw has been updated to formalize these responsibilities and ensure that procedures are clearly defined, consistently applied, and properly documented.
Okay. And there's is that the one with the responsibility of select board, section 142-3? I think the word "a" has to be replaced with the word "the." Right? Second sentence. Second line, second sentence. 142.
The town administrator versus a town administrator?
The select board shall appoint the town administrator, not a town administrator. We only have one. Right? Yeah, it's the. Let me see if there's, I don't know if there was another one, but. Oh, wait, the date under 142-8? Is that,
So we also had council review it. They just got back to me this morning. So you'll see on the screen, that is what they recommended, is that we remove the effective dates and that we will add
Okay.
upon approved by the Attorney General.
oh, okay, let me check. Okay, so, this will take effect, okay. So upon approval, not upon approved, upon approval. Upon approval. There you go, very nice. Okay, I recommend favorable action.
Not everybody that agrees with favorable? Unanimous?
All right, Article 8, summary. At the end of the 2025 annual town meeting, the town voted to amend the bylaw to change the composition of the committee. This amendment updated the membership to align with current committees and boards and added 2 residential members. The Community Preservation Committee seeks to further clarify and maintain the terms as outlined above.
I guess I did have a question on it, that when you're looking for the community members, it's annual appointments, yes? One-year term? Is it one-year term, or are we talking longer? Oh, no, is it 3-year terms?
When we did it last year, it was just set up for the initial terms, and there was nothing to carry thereafter. So after the initial terms that we voted in last year, now we just want to do 3-year terms like the rest of the board.
3-year terms, okay. And so when the rest of the composition of this is the CPC, is set by the bylaw, right?
Correct. This is just an amendment. We added this to the bylaw last year to get rid of 2 boards that were no longer represented, and we added members of the general public.
Oh,
However, when
Oh, I know.
our committee couldn't come to a consensus of what would happen after the initial term, so we left it off, which was an error in our ways, but we're correcting it at this moment now.
okay. I guess I'm just wondering, because the other appointees are from what, conservation?
Conservation, Finance, Planning Board,
Planning Board.
Recreation, Select Board,
Select Board, and are those annuals?
those are 3-year.
I feel like we voted every year for Ed to represent us, don't we?
No.
No?
3 years,
Okay, maybe
yeah.
I'm thinking of something else.
It was a matter of habit originally.
Okay,
And once
thank
we
you.
identified
We
that the
did do
terms
that.
were longer, we started to wait and make sure that they were done correctly. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
why I remember you used to get like a big, long list every year at the end of the year, and you would vote to approve everybody and the staff. We've been slowly trying to update that process to reflect what actually should happen.
Great. And it is the select board that will do this appointing?
Yeah, the Community Preservation Committee will make the recommendation, and it's up to you guys to appoint them.
Right. I guess the only thing I think is, it seems like just the two community members, this applies to them only, that preference is going to be given to applicants who have not previously served, so kind of says, after you serve for 3 years, we don't want you anymore.
You can take it that way. The intent of it is to get more people involved and get some fresh ideas on the board, so you don't have a stale board of people that have been there for 20 years, and this is the way we do it. You know, the new perspective, especially, bringing in these members, was very helpful as we were going
Right,
through.
but let me just point out, from the other side of it, the majority of the board could just be the stale members, and the community members could be the fresh new air. So I guess when I look at volunteerism, and it's how I started in the town, just volunteering on the financial board, to say that you may not be appointed again because somebody new is on the list and you've already been on the committee for 3 years, so we're going to kick you off, might be somewhat damaging to our outreach for volunteerism, and I think we've had a difficult time getting volunteers lately. So if it wouldn't be bad, could we take that line out? And I mean, that could be kind of understood that you want new volunteers to get a chance, but to tell the elected select board that you want us to give preference to the new people over people that have served for a few years, I feel like that's taking away our ability, right? To look at it.
I can see that.
I
I
don't
think
know.
ultimately it's
It doesn't exclude the,
decision.
What?
I think it's ultimately our decision,
It is our decision.
and I think.
But this says we're going to give preference to people who haven't been on the board before, and I'm not willing to say that is always how I'm going to decide it.
Oh, yeah, you don't have to. It's a consideration.
But it says preference shall be given. It doesn't say you may not, or you won't, this is a shall be. So it's fairly definitive. That's my concern, that I feel like, I think in your recommendations, you can always say that. These people applied, these are the people we strongly recommend. This person is new, and we'd like to see a new person get a chance to be on the board, something like that. But to put that into the article, doesn't that become something that we're supposed to follow? Why put it in there if we're not going to follow it?
I believe the way I read it and the way it was written, it's not intended to make it so that you cannot seek reelection or reappointment to the board. It's merely to give an opening if there's, other people that want a chance to serve on the board.
I know, but would you mind if we take that out?
I'm not in favor of taking it out.
Okay, well, I am. Because I don't think you can dictate to a 5-member elected board that appoints these people how, I mean, we have a bylaw that tells us all the other people, how we have to appoint them. I don't think that you should be telling the board
The only
how we have to choose the 2 residents. That's,
the only people that are appointed by the select board are these 2 residents. The rest are appointed by their committees.
we appoint our select board member, and we've appointed the same person. And the other committees seem to stay within their lane a lot, too. So it's been the same people a lot on that board. That's all I'm saying.
There's
Okay.
several new members on the board. There's
All right, well, I guess I'm just not,
myself included.
I'm
What's
not-
your opinion, Becky?
I'm not in favor of that.
I'm trying to think of another way to wordsmith it, because I get the intent, I totally do, because I think having fresh
Yep.
eyes and fresh ideas is really important. But I also get where Kathy's coming from, where it does sort of dictate, I know what you're saying, Jason, we're going to make whatever decision we'd like, but that is in writing. That
Yeah.
So if you change shall to may, that's a big change. So if
Thank
you're looking
you.
for a
Yeah.
wordsmith option, if you change preference may be given, it
Yeah.
still identifies that the
That's much
preference should be
Yes.
given to those who have not served on it, but it doesn't say that it has to.
Right,
That's not a recommendation of my own or an opinion of my own.
That's what I was
I'm
looking
just
for.
Offering a solution.
No, that was good. I know may
I-
and shall have been used yeah.
Then that's,
I like should better than may.
Well,
It's not quite shall.
I'm going to make an amendment that preference may be given to
leaves it a little
applicants.
bit more
Yep.
open.
It gives it open. It gives us flexibility. It also respects people that maybe just got on there and served 3 years and says thank you. So can we vote on the amended word if we need to, or do you want to vote on it as amended?
Let's vote on the amended word.
Okay. I make a motion that we worded that preference may be given to applicants who have not previously served on the CPC.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? All against? So I think we could move forward with shall, or would you entertain should?
I'm fine with
As-
shall.
I'm fine with shall. I mean, like it says, it really depends on who it is, and it's our decision. I
It is
think
our
if they don't meet the qualifications, or if we don't feel that they should be,
Yep,
how much preference they have isn't gonna matter.
okay.
And I think that they shall be given preference, because it's not that I wanna take away from the people that have volunteered.
Right.
Because I definitely appreciate the fact that they volunteered, and my hope is that they'll continue to be involved, and we could actually grow our audience.
You think we're going to get, I get it. Jason's just trying to grow his audience. Okay, Of course.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That was worded very nicely.
Thank you.
We'll move favorable on it.
All right, so everybody favorable on the, as written? Unanimous.
Okay.
9,
Article 9. Summary, this will bring the town into compliance with Ollie's Law, an act to increase kennel safety to establish enforcement protocols. Bless you.
anybody have any questions or concerns about this?
I'm assuming that Ollie's Law is something that we're not in compliance with. Is that? Yeah.
I don't know that we have all that, a tremendous amount of kennels here. I think
Okay.
the last one that we had was at VC.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yep. I'm a favorable on this.
All right, so everybody that moves favorable? Unanimous. 10?
All right, Article 10. Hold on 1 second. All right, summary. The right to farm bylaw recognizes and protects the right to engage in agricultural activities within the town. It encourages the pursuit of agriculture, promotes agriculture-based economic opportunities, and protects farmland by ensuring that agricultural operations conducted in accordance with generally accepted practices are not considered a nuisance. The bylaw also provides for disclosure to new property owners or occupants that farming activities may occur nearby.
Anybody have any comments, questions?
I do.
Yes, go ahead, Becky.
I was looking at a lot of other bylaws, and one thing that's definitely not in here is a complaint resolution or mediation process, like they call it an agricultural dispute resolution or procedure for complaints. When you don't have this, then complaints go straight to enforcement bodies, like our animal inspector who said he works for free doing these inspections, or the Board of Health who has limited capacity. So I notice on some of them, I'm a huge advocate for the Agricultural Commission, and forming that to review complaints, written findings, their advisory. They also do education and outreach, which I think is fantastic. So they become sort of the mediator in between for that process. Having a commission also makes the town eligible for Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resource Funding and Assistance. So that was one piece that I felt was missing. So if we weren't going to put an agricultural commission, I would suggest some sort of procedure for complaints to let them know who to go to and how that will be processed. The other piece too, one other thing, there's no explicit reference when you're saying normal agricultural practices. I saw in some other ones they had normal agricultural practices shall include practices conducted in accordance with general accepted agricultural practices as determined by the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources, just so people know what qualifies. So I noticed they had sort of that
Making it a little more specific.
Yeah, yeah, it just makes things a little,
Something
little
that they can
easier.
actually put tangible
yes.
onto.
Yeah, so those were the two things, so sort, just defining normal agricultural practices and hitching it to what the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources does, but also a procedure for complaints.
So on that note, this is Westford's, and they have listed like similar to what we already have. If that makes some sense, utilizing what we already have in place.
So, that, on that point about like the what's included,
Yeah,
there was, because I caught that same thing. And the only thing that I saw in there, and I don't know if it covers it enough, but there is mention of MGL 128, Section 1A.
okay.
And that does have like some of those things defined in it. So I don't know, I mean, we could certainly be more specific.
Right.
But I think with this one, the goal, or at least what I saw, was that of that
Okay.
specific law covered some of it. But I do agree on the dispute process. Or the complaint process. We should find a way to put something in there.
Does that make sense to you, Jason, that,
To just add the 140.5 resolution of disputes that is in the town of Westford, Massachusetts.
yeah, as long as that applies specifically to, it seems like it has what we already have in place as far as who can you go to?
Yeah, because you got the selectmen, the board of health,
Uh-oh.
extreme damage.
I brought my husband's crossword puzzles.
danger,
Yeah, does that make sense?
Pushes everything back to the select.
Well, if it has to, if it doesn't,
Because we're the ones promoting it. If you don't have an agricultural commission, then that does put,
All right, and that's something, like I said the
Yeah.
last time, that we can consider forming, that we don't necessarily need to have in the bylaw.
right?
So I'm good with adding the resolution of disputes.
Could you just read it?
Any person who seeks to complain about the operation of a farm may, notwithstanding pursuing any other available remedy, file a grievance with the Board of Selectmen, the bylaw enforcement officer, or the Board of Health. Depending upon the nature of the grievance, the filing of the grievance does not suspend the time within which the pursuant any other available remedies that the aggrieved may have. The bylaw enforcement officer or Board of Selectmen may forward a copy of the grievance to the Agricultural Commission or its agent, which would be stricken because we don't have that yet,
okay, yeah.
which should review and facilitate the resolution of the grievance, recommending the town authority with the grievance, yeah, so B would be eliminated.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then C, the Board of Health, except in cases of imminent danger or public health risk, may forward a copy of the grievance to the Agricultural Commission or its agent, which shall review the facility, which, again, doesn't really apply.
yeah. And
But yeah, that first one is probably the most important part.
so we
So I'm
have,
good with accepting that as
okay, good.
a portion of that, and I will, you have it already, so we're good.
Just because this is going to affect every single resident, and I think not having some sort of process.
Way to
right?
vent.
Yeah, yeah, well, no, I mean, because it's not like this is just this zoning. This is every single house. So to
Yes.
not have any sort of pathway to make sure that this is in place, and I
Well, at
don't,
least, they always have a pathway,
Okay.
because we're always here, but.
right, but I don't
At
want
least now it's
to,
spelled out, so.
right, and I don't want to
it's clear.
overload Sam or Board of Health or,
Or
Okay, I'm
Facebook.
just looking at.
oh, I don't do that.
Yeah,
TikTok.
Yes, so I'm good with that.
about, let's see.
Anybody else have any comments or questions? Or concerns?
I
So I
like-
did find that by that MGL, if you want me to read it, or if you want to go over it, see if it includes enough.
Go ahead,
for the-
read it.
the
Yeah, as long as there's something to anchor it to,
Yeah,
I think
so it
it's,
basically
yeah.
said, this is MGL, what did I say, section?
128,
125, section 1A. It says, farming or agriculture shall include farming in all of its branches and the cultivation and tillage of the soil, dairying, the production, cultivation, growing, and harvesting of any agricultural, aquacultural, floricultural, or horticultural commodities, the growing and harvesting of forest products upon forest land, the raising of livestock, including horses, the keeping of horses, as a commercial enterprise, the keeping and raising of poultry, swine, cattle, and other domesticated animals used for food purposes, bees, fur-bearing animals, and any forestry or lumbering operations performed by a farmer who is hereby defined as one engaged in agriculture or farming as herein defined, or on a farm as an incident to or in conjunction with such farming operations, including preparations for market, delivery to storage, or to market, or to carriers for transportation to market.
And what was the point of this clause? I lost it.
Because
in
we
the-
had it said as, it's to protect all normal farming activities, but
Yeah.
that's just a vague sentence.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the definition, I think it covers
Well-
basically all of that was just said.
Yeah.
One other thing I thought, like I said, I've read, there's so many different versions of these
I know,
things.
there are.
This one, I thought, other than the commercial farms and protecting their right to run their commercial farm, which is where this whole right to farm first came from, was to protect the rights of a commercial farm operation as towns became more urbanized, to still allow them to drive their tractors slow, and you had to, let them do that because they're running their business. This one from West Boylston goes on to say, the first right to farm was established for commercial farming, blah, blah, blah. We have a rich rural history and vast open space. But we're also home to a few dense neighborhoods. And currently, we have no restrictions on general farming practices, including lot size. Therefore, in an effort to allow all residents to participate freely in the joys of agriculture, it is incumbent upon all who engage in this lifestyle to proactively and continuously exhibit mindful and considerate farming practices. Residents keeping farm animals on smaller lot sizes are encouraged to pay extra attention to these matters. Guidelines, suggestions, and recommendations on positive farming practices are available through, and again, we don't have it, the Agricultural Commission, but maybe we could point them to Mass State website or something that would give them some ideas. Because I saw, the one thing, Jason, I saw you said something about limited animals, and I thought that's such a vague word. Whose idea of limited, how do you count limited? I thought this kind of description at the end of this one sort of captures what residents were saying to us, that they asked their neighbor, is this bothering you, or do you mind if we do this? Is this good? And everybody's like, no, we love your chickens, and blah, blah, blah. So this is kind of the spirit that we want to encourage, in addition to protecting the general farming practices, as all of these right to farm laws are about, the bylaws. The other thing is for the hobby farmer, to also be able to enjoy this. But if you're in a more densely developed neighborhood, to be respectful, which it seems like most people are, of their neighbors. And this is not a mandate, it's just some kind language at the bottom of this page. Sorry to throw all this paper at you. There's
No,
a
it's-
lot of different things
It
out
was, it
there.
was definitely,
Yes. Google is a bad thing. Don't type Google again.
I was looking because I know that the original bylaw did have the good neighbor clause,
Oh, it did, okay,
but I don't see it,
okay. Because I thought,
what I was looking for.
could you put it in under the hobby farm section that you already have? Do you know what I'm saying? Where you describe, the non-commercial person who is, growing their own vegetables and growing some of their own livestock. It just has a nice flow to it.
And then I had one other question.
Go ahead.
So I know that there's committees, and there's boards, and there are commissions. Forming a commission, does that require anything different compared to forming a committee or a board?
Rebecca?
Does a commission require a town meeting, or can we just form a commission like in September, compared to a committee and a board? I noticed that language was used very separate.
So it depends. Some are mandated by statute,
Okay.
and others are a creation of the select board.
Okay, just want to be
And
sure.
since I saw nothing on the Agricultural Commission and the statute and any of the bylaws that I saw written, I would assume that it's not governed by statute.
But does
Otherwise, it
the,
would've been
but does it allow for a town to create an agricultural commission? Is that why it says agricultural commission? I'd have to do my research, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, there was something, just because out of all the states that did, or the cities and towns that did right to farm, there was like 5% that only had agricultural commission, all the others had both. So I was just concerned with moving forward without just at least understanding what we might need. Yeah, Boxford has a bylaw specifically for agricultural commission. Give me another town here. Yeah,
Jojo,
The moderator shall speak.
yeah, and Drake it.
The word commission, in my opinion, implies that they have a final authority on a matter. And since the process of settling grievances is vested with the select board, then you'd want to use anything but the word commission. Use committee,
Yeah,
board, because the authority rests with you. You put in a commission, like a water commission, it sounds like, whoa,
Yeah.
just a thought.
So for help, I am pulling up on mass.gov, they have the agricultural commissions, and they have the authority to establish a municipal agricultural commission with its intent. And it provides additional information. It's just I would need to see clarification when it says that the town has the authority to establish an agricultural commission. Does that mean the town as a legislative body through town meeting, or does that mean the town through its select board? So that's the only thing that I would need to clarify. But we do have, in fact, which sounds like established under Massachusetts general law, the ability to, or the authority to establish such commission. And that's where the commission comes into play, because it's governed by the state and its authorization of the town to form such. Just like if you look at the Conservation Commission, there's the regulations that allow the town to have the, or to
Right.
require the town to have a Conservation Commission, requires the town to have a Board of Health, requires the town to have a Planning Board, requires the town to have a Zoning Board. So there's certain statutes that allow a community, or not allow, but they say that a town must have them. They don't say that a town must have a recreation committee. They don't say that the town must have a town government study committee. They don't
Right.
say, so there's leniency in terms of what committees you're able to create, and which ones are governed by statute, and which ones require you to get accepted by town meeting, and which ones the select board may move forward with. So we would need to see clarification on that
Yeah.
in terms of the authority too. But that does not limit your ability to move forward with the language in the bylaw
Right.
to establish such, because you do have the authority to.
Follow up on that kind of thing. The state of Massachusetts defines a farm as 5 acres. And so we have, I know Sam told us how many commercial farms we have. Was it like
Oh, I can't remember.
5 or, it wasn't that many. When we have like water, you can't use water, they're allowed to though, right? Because they're a commercial farm?
I would need to ask Sam exactly what the requirement.
Oh, okay, I was just curious because one of the bylaws I read through said something about the fact that they have rights to get water when they need it for their commercial farm, but not for the hobby farm.
Okay.
Yeah.
that's very interesting, because I would give them rights to get to the water because they need it for their farm regardless, especially if they're dealing
Agriculture,
with
well, that's,
horses and things like that, and animals.
right, but the hobby farm wasn't covered under that in one of the towns. Like I said,
Yeah,
I
I-
scanned through a lot
Like I
of
said, I wouldn't differentiate between the two. Because that was the whole purpose was to,
Well, giving your animals
That's water.
water is different from watering, like when they say no outside watering. I mean, you have to let your grass dry, but farmers,
Yeah, but if and
I
on the same
assume-
token, whenever they say there's no outside watering, your hand watering is always approved, and it's always approved when it's done for food,
Yeah.
regardless of
Okay.
whether you're a commercial farm or not.
Okay, yeah, okay.
And it's something you can't really take away from people, because when people have a small home farm,
They're
they're
using-
using that for food, so,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't say no.
Right, I gotcha.
And another thing, my sister works for insurance and wanted to note, just because it's a right to farm community, you still have to check with your homeowner's insurance, because if you're not a farm and they find out, that law does not protect you. She was very clear on that, so it was interesting. That was a fun fact. I had no idea.
But we were talking commercial farm.
She just said farming in general. I didn't get into details. She just said, check with your homeowner's insurance, because this law doesn't protect you from that. You're still, it's just a side note.
I'm confused, but that's okay.
Homeowners
That's not
insurance is
unusual
very
for me.
It is very fickle, yes, yes.
There's a lot of lingo.
But there were some people that thought this right to farm bylaw protected that from them, from the insurance stuff, but
Nothing protects you from insurance.
no, they don't. No, they don't.
Right, okay.
All
So
right.
then for clarification purposes for the amendments to the bylaw that are being discussed, is it adding the resolution disputes under 5 and adding A and B
Just A.
from the Westford, or so just the A?
And what about the nice language at the bottom of, what was that?
Oh, that's right, you were reading that and I interrupted, I'm sorry.
No, no worries.
Um,
I still have it right here. I just was changing some of the things just because
Okay.
West Boylston did it for commercial.
Okay.
My intent was to do it for all.
Oh,
So
okay,
I struck commercial,
okay,
replaced agricultural commission with select board.
okay.
And at the very end, instead of agricultural commission, I did Massachusetts agricultural board,
I was very,
which is the board that puts together all the rules, and
right, but I was,
they have all that information posted on their website.
okay, but did we discuss the adding to the hobby farms, the words about, in more densely populated areas, blah, 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 be a good neighbor?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
everything that was here. The only thing that I changed was, of course, everything that said West
Okay.
Boylston,
No, that's
it's
wonderful.
Groveland.
Good.
Struck out commercial, just because my intent was to do all farming.
Okay,
And then where it said agricultural commission, I substituted select board. And then the last agricultural commission was replaced with the Mass Agricultural Board's website,
okay.
because that's where you get all the information
Oh,
about
yes, no, no, I
positive
get you.
farming practices.
Good, yes, thank you.
This West Boylston,
Yes, this, West Boylston would be the,
but their bylaw, their right to farm bylaw? Is that what you're taking? I'm just looking for the language, and the language doesn't have, I'll share my screen.
I'm just passing pieces of paper.
I know, you're giving links.
I almost gave away my husband's crossword.
I think this is just a, more of a definition, a handout.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah,
Not the
this is
actual
not the
bylaw.
bylaw, sorry, yeah. This is just, I was just writing through a lot of different things and definitions and such not.
And then one more question, Steve, when you were reading all of that stuff, I didn't.
Yep.
As far as having a farm stand, there were some that mentioned explicitly having a farm stand. Does this include that?
What I read did,
I know, I was paying attention to some of the things,
But
but,
what you read was more on the animals and the farm.
well, I mean, it does say, at that last sentence where it says, the farmer on a farm is an incident in conjunction with farming operation, including preparations for market, delivery to storage, or to market. So I mean, I guess, would that
Yeah.
cover?
The little unmanned market.
no,
at
they're so,
the front of your
they're so
driveway.
cute, I love those. But we're at Boxborough, and it is the bylaw. It's, when it mentions farming, it lists a few examples, and one thing it says is processing and packaging of the agricultural output of the farm and operation of a farmer's market or farm stand, including signage there too. Would that be covered under this, or is, that's some of that, I just wasn't too sure. I wanted to try to,
Yeah, again, that would apply more to the commercial aspect of the farming. where
Okay.
This is just to cover everybody's ability to be able to farm.
okay,
And then everything else after that, I think, is is what you do with it and what the town will allow,
Okay,
in my opinion. anyway.
okay. Yeah, this one, it said farming shall encompass activities including but not limited to, and it gave some, application of manure, fertilizers, pesticides, control of pests, conducting agriculture-related education, then it mentions the farm stand.
Like in our definition of farm, it also
Mm-hmm.
includes trees,
Right,
wood.
yes.
They
Yeah.
try to make it as inclusive as possible. 'Cause we do have some people that sell firewood
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
regularly.
yeah, absolutely.
And actually, what we have does have something that covers that, I think.
Okay.
So it says, farming shall also include activities incidental or customary to agricultural operations, including the storage, processing, blah, blah, blah. But then it says, and the on-site sale of agricultural products produced on the farm.
Okay,
So I think that would cover a farm stand.
okay.
So let me give you this. The reiteration of the attempt to be a
It's on
good neighbor
page
within reason.
Is, all right, thank you. You know what, I've been reading this one and then all the other ones. Okay,
Like right above where it says hobby farm.
right.
You can read my chicken scratch on it. What's that? Yeah.
So what do you want me to do with this? You want me to incorporate that in the bylaw?
Yes.
Where would you like this to be incorporated as part of the bylaw? Just trying to make sure that I understand the intent so that I can properly place it into the bylaw so that it,
Make sure I'm looking at ours, not somebody else's.
Right? That's what's happening to me. Does anyone inspect the farm stands, or they're just there, right? No one inspects the farm stands, right? It'd just be more inspecting of the animals?
I'm not entirely sure if there's any food that they're selling, then they might be required under the Board of Health to have some type of serve safe or some type of
Right, right.
certification of some sort, but I'm not positive.
Yeah, and that would be up to the Board of Health.
Okay,
Yeah, I would put that in with the dispute resolution,
okay,
because that way it signifies that we want everybody to try to work it out. and
Right,
Be good
mhm.
neighbors,
right.
but also understanding that it doesn't always work out that way.
Mm-hmm.
So where was that?
Along with the dispute resolution, which would be.
So
at the
right
end of the
underneath
bylaw.
that?
That makes sense.
Jason,
Yes, Ed.
somewhere under the definitions, maybe under farming, and I don't see it here. The farming shall include cultivation, tillage of soil, production of field crops, berries, nuts, mushrooms, et cetera, et cetera. Somewhere in there ought to be listed hay. Some raise hay specifically for a purpose.
Yeah, hay is definitely good. We
I didn't
can
see
add that.
any, I didn't see it in here.
No, I mean, it's literally impossible to list it all. I know it, because it does say agricultural commodities such as shall include but not limited to. So even though it's not listed, it would be an agricultural commodity. But I don't have a problem putting hay in there as well.
You get that one, Rebecca?
It's just not necessarily what you would put in a bylaw, the way
What's
that it's
that?
written. This
The way that
particular,
it's written there.
although Groveland has a rich rural history and vast open space compared to other bordering towns, our town is also home of a few dense neighborhoods, currently has no restrictions on, it doesn't necessarily read
Does
like.
anybody have a problem with Rebecca rewriting the good neighbor clause
Rewrite it.
to meet what a bylaw would be?
AI.
You can continue the discussion, I'll put it up on the screen in just 1 second.
Put it in the AI. Let it.
Right, right.
Anybody else have anything else? All right, so we're gonna move on to the next one
Okay.
until,
So we'll come back to that. We'll circle back.
see
Okay.
what Rebecca comes up with.
That was number 10, right?
Yes.
Okay, just remember that for me, because,
But in spirit, I'm in favor.
yes, just need a little finesse.
Spiritual.
All right, so Article 11. Summary. The article proposes the creation of the Groveland Affordable Housing Trust Fund, a municipal trust dedicated to supporting the creation and preservation of affordable and attainable housing for low and moderate income households. The trust will be governed by a board of trustees, including representatives from town boards and at-large members with housing expertise, and will have broad powers to accept funds and property, manage and invest assets, and support local housing initiatives. The trust will operate as a public agency with annual audits, exemptions from certain taxes, and authority to prioritize housing for Groveland residents. The article also ensures collaboration with the Community Preservation Committee, not commission, and clarifies that the trustees cannot bind the town except as authorized by the bylaw.
Which is what Adam had already brought to
Yes.
us. So does everybody feel comfortable voting favorable?
I have a couple questions on
Yes.
this one. So, just given the way that the bylaw is written, and that it seems like most of the acts that the Board of Trustees would take require select board approval, what is their actual role outside of getting our approval for things?
She's writing the bylaw.
We have,
That's question one.
If you're the next one, will I formulate that?
How are they getting their initial funding? Is that coming out of the trust that? is
The,
set up?
the funding will be, yeah, we'll put forward, say, a CPA project next year to fund
Got it.
them.
Okay, that was question two. but
Okay.
Good answer.
Well, question 2 was way easier. We left it in there with select board approval, just to have that extra level of oversight. The members of the trust are not going to be elected officials, they're going to be appointed officials. So we feel that having the elected officials have the final say and the oversight of it is a wise move.
Okay.
yeah, because I imagine putting together the whole thing that they'll be doing is going to be very extensive.
I will not be volunteering for this one.
So that's a very big, and I think that's probably the biggest reason why we've had a lot of hangups before,
Agreed.
because it is very extensive. Yes, Joe?
I'm going to go sit down so I can get some more steps in.
Well, you could
Without
sit
looking-
closer to the podium.
Just without
He
looking,
wants to step.
just without looking further into it, I just want you to be prepared for potential objections. If somebody reads that and say, well, there's a majority of people in this town that are really upset about the level of development, housing increases, farms being taken away, forests being chopped down, and more houses going up. So I just want you to be aware that there could be objections and a lengthy discussion as to what is this really all about? And does this mean you're going to jam more housing in Groveland? You just
Well, I
want to
think
be ready for that objection. You don't have to answer me now, but that's the objection I'm anticipating
Yeah,
on the floor.
and fortunately, I think it's something that we have discussed here before, because we believe that the trust sets up, because we don't have the money to put in housing development. But what this does allow is it allows the repurposing of existing homes to become affordable and to be put onto our role of affordable housing.
All right. Great, just rehearse that, thank you.
I don't have to, it's easy.
Just to kind of jump on what you were saying there, Jason, there's no programs in place. This is just setting up the body to set up the programs, but things you can think of, down payment assistance with a house, like Joe had mentioned, or you had mentioned, repurposing existing homes. This isn't, we're going to go build a development of 85 little apartments and rent them out for low-income housing. That's not the intent of it. And all that whatever they decide to do will be determined by the trust. This is just the first domino of many.
Yes, because like the last time that we attempted this, it was to help with a down payment to the house. And the housing market went so far, we no longer had the funds to actually help with the down payment of the house in a meaningful manner. So, yeah.
Another one that was brought up in the project last year that this trust came out of was a senior home repair program, something to be able to keep people in their homes. So this isn't necessarily creating new
Yeah, that's right.
housing. This is maintaining what we have, maybe converting one or two things, helping someone get into a house, things of that nature.
So maybe we didn't discuss it, maybe I heard it when I attended their meeting.
You were the only one.
Keep them straight. All right, so how does the board vote favorable on that?
I
Yes,
still have-
question?
Yeah, I do have some questions.
Okay.
So the powers of the trustees to accept, receive real property, personal property, and money by gift, grant, contribution, devise, or transfer. Will these trustees have access to any bank accounts?
Does who, I'm sorry, have access?
Will they have access to bank accounts?
To the trust.
They will have access to the trust bank account?
They will have access to the trust. Their
The
purpose
trustees.
is to manage the trust.
I'm trying to get this straight. Will they be able to access money?
The trust.
So they will be able to access the money in the trust
That's correct.
themselves individually? They'll be able to walk into a bank? and
No,
have-
no.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Oh, no.
Okay, that's, yes, okay, because some of this, when you read it, you go like, okay, so what's the liability for the town if this trust goes sideways on us and decides to?
We have multiple trusts set up. We've actually had issues with some of the,
No,
the
but-
library board of trustees
I-
have a trust, the
I
cemetery has
understand.
a trust. So there's been issues with the way that people have opened up bank accounts to access trusts,
I
et
know.
cetera. So we have done a full 180 in terms of where things were a few years ago.
Okay, so this trustee board is advisory. They don't take action without the select board approval?
No, not necessarily. I mean, if you look
Okay.
at powers of the trustees, I mean,
I'm reading it right now in front of me. It says with approval of select board, with approval of select board, with approval of select board.
to certain items, it requires the select board, like we've talked about in other occurrences when it comes to the purchase and of real and personal property. So even like similar what you have with the Conservation Commission, somebody can donate land to the Conservation Commission for conservation purposes, and the Conservation Commission can accept it, but only when the select board signs. Then it doesn't have to go to town meeting in order for them to make that donation. But then
Right.
if there's an occurrence like we talked about for the further up articles, and we want to take property or we want to purchase property, it does in fact require a town meeting vote. So those regulations and those processes are still in place. But there are some things that the trust can do without approval of the select board.
So can they, it says here for them to employ, am I holding you up? No. Okay. For them to employ advisors, accountants, et cetera, they need to come to the board.
That's not what it reads in the bylaw. The bylaw
It says to pay reasonable compensation. Expenses to all advisors and agents, such compensation between income and principal as the board deems available. Is the board not the select board? Are we-
Correct, it's the board of trustees.
Okay, I think that we need to define that, this needs to be rewritten to define so that we know when they're talking about the select board and when they're talking about the
So we did
trustee.
start to make those changes, so that's just one that I had missed. But the rest of them, where it says board, it should say board of trustees. So every other time you see board in that,
Can it just say trustee board? Completely and not board? Because to me, it becomes difficult to determine, because I know in the past we have had trouble with investment strategies, et cetera, that are entrusted to trustee boards, right? I mean, that's a big responsibility. And not a lot of people are going to be well-versed in that, so they would need an advisor, right? Would they be using the town's investment advisor through the treasurer office? I would hope. I would hope we would not have different advisors giving different advice on the different funds in town. I would hope. Does it make any sense to you what I'm concerned about? This could be a substantial amount of money.
I understand.
Okay, and my concern is, you're going to just start appointing people from the different boards in town, and, while some people might be very well-versed in investment strategy, a lot of people will not be very well-versed. That's not something everyone walks around with, right? So you try to do the best you can, but how do we ensure that the money that the town invests in this, which I think is a very good endeavor, and I want it to go forward, how do we ensure that the town funds are protected properly?
Can I just jump in real quick, because I think I might be able to help your question? We kind of had the same conversation, and that's why the town administrator or their appointee is a member of the board as well,
A non-voting member?
non-voting member.
Correct, so non-voting, so they can vote, they could tell them no, 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 and the trustees could go yes, yes, yes. And that, so I just want to make sure that the town funds, because these funds are coming through our taxes, that we have the proper checks and balances in place, so that money is protected and put to the best possible use in this endeavor. I mean, I totally support the idea of loans for those people that might be having difficulty maintaining their home financially. I think that's a great thing. I'm very wary of building a lot of things on our own or hiring somebody to do so, because the town has just faced some of the biggest development of all time. The 200 apartments are coming online. We have to absorb that. We have quite a bit to absorb right now. But I don't want to hold this up. I just feel like,
So the treasurer collector
yes.
is the one who's the custodian of funds for our trust, and they manage all of our trusts. So they would also be responsible for this trust. They would be responsible for the investments made with this trust. It's all governed under Massachusetts general law and the authorities of the treasurer. So that would be no different here. But just like we have trusts, the library board of trustees can spend their trust money, but yet it's the treasurer collector who's working with Bartholomew, our financial advisors, and where to invest that and what laws they must go through in order to make those investments. The same with the cemetery commission. They get the interest based upon whatever it is that the treasurer collector is working on in terms of investing those funds. But they alone are the individuals who can't, or the collective body that can expend those funds. The same situation would happen with this trust. The treasurer collector would manage the funds of the trust in the sense of where it's invested, where it's held, where the bank is, all of that. And then it is the actual trust then who would decide the expenditure of funds unless otherwise specified in the bylaw under those terms that have been laid out, when in fact they would need either town meeting and/or the select board approval to do so.
I would think you'd want select board approval, and especially if they're going to borrow.
And in those cases, as you can see in the bylaw, it requires the select board to do that.
Okay, so so now you're saying they can't expend the money until the select board approves it?
On certain occasions, which is what is spelled out in the bylaw itself. Each
What-
individual numerical one that's in front of you on the
Yep.
the bylaw says what you can and cannot do and what requires select board approval and what does not require select board approval.
So what would not require select board approval?
So like you had just read, to pay reasonable compensation and expenses to all advisors, agents, and apportions.
So can they hire those on their own?
Correct.
But you just said that the treasurer collector was in charge of the advising and the investing, and so.
No different than the Board of Trustees can hire a consultant to look into it and work with the treasurer collector in regards to how those funds are invested.
I guess I'm just not in favor of redundant advisors. You know, I mean, we do have an advisor, right, for our town investments.
We do.
So why can't this trust board use the same, through the treasurer collector, be given the same advice? Why do they need I'm just kind of, not trying to give you a hard time, I'm just trying to ask the question, why do they need to hire their own? What would be the problem? Why would that be? I just can't think of an instance why they should. Because now you have like competing interests in the same town for the taxpayer dollars. That's all, I would just like to, I like the way it's set up, I like the treasurer collector, I don't want to end up in a situation where we find out that the trustees have been hiring consultants to do this and this and this and this and this that we had no idea about, and expended tens of thousands of dollars that we had no idea about. And you're saying that could happen, right? I mean, I'm just asking, I'm not trying
I
to
did not
blame.
write this bylaw.
I know,
This is a
that's why-
model bylaw that was
I-
put forward by the Community Preservation Committee.
Right.
So.
Then maybe ask the town
I'm trying to answer the questions with
attorney.
the information I have available.
Okay,
to me,
can we
since
ask
It was
the-
not my bylaw to put forward.
So my question would be for town attorney, are there any limits on how much money the trustees can spend without the select board's knowledge? I'd like to get that from the town attorney. Okay. Because to me, that's a big concern. Overall, I support this. I want this to happen. I just want it to happen in the right way. And the town to be protected, that's all.
So is that what you want to circle around to during the next meeting? Maybe when we have a little bit more information?
Yeah, that'd be great. I would like that. It's a complicated thing. And again, Adam, don't get me wrong. I support the concept. I want it to move forward. I just want to make sure that we cross the Ts and dot the Is. And now we're going to talk about marijuana.
Rebecca has.
Oh, I thought we were going to take a segue here.
So go ahead and look at that and make sure
Oh,
that matches
thank
what you would like to see.
Oh, except the last line, where it mentions the Agricultural Commission. We don't have one.
What was it called?
We don't,
Oh, the Massachusetts Agriculture.
yeah,
Yes.
that one.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah, what was the name of that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. That looks good. You know, put it out
Perfect.
there and give it a roll.
I like it.
Got to start somewhere.
All right, so everybody favorable on number 9?
That was
9,
10, 10.
10.
Number 10. All in
Yes.
favor?
Yep.
4,
Opposed?
you opposed? Okay, you're opposed to the bylaw?
Yeah, I spoke about it before, and I'm still opposed to it.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna, Article 11, we're skipping right now?
We're going to get back to it next meeting.
We're gonna get back to it next,
Next
okay,
meeting.
okay.
And so things on the next few articles will get a little bit confusing. Town
Excellent.
council has advised and revised the warrant to include combining the next few articles
Okay.
into
Oh.
one bylaw.
Okay,
But Article 12 is separate, so we can move forward with Article 12. But the
Okay.
following after, when we get to the zoning bylaw, is going to get a little bit,
bumpy?
yes.
Okay, I'll take it.
My Article 12 is all crossed off.
Yeah. Well, Article 12 summary, this article would repeal the current prohibition on marijuana establishments,
Oh, okay.
allowing the town to update its zoning bylaw to regulate such businesses.
So that's the whole crux of the article.
That's taking.
Yes, Ed?
Look, this is, the town had voted, I don't know, not that long ago, although time goes by fast, not to allow the establishments in Groveland, and it was, I don't remember the vote, but, look, it was brought up, but I think it was Kathy brought it up about, when we were talking about the sidewalks, about the drivers, people drive crazy, Well, do we really need more impaired drivers on the road? And I don't think so. And some of the local municipalities have started to lose some of the facilities because they're overloaded. And it was brought up before that the neighboring community, last year, I think it was $50,000, the year before, $30,000 that they received. But it's, is that really worth it? Marijuana is still a gateway drug. It's still against federal law. And I just don't think that we should be encouraging people to be driving impaired. And we've got enough crazies out on the road as it is. We don't need any more. Oh, I think that this should be, the selectmen should vote no on the approval of this. We shouldn't be approving this. This is for the short money that you're going to make on it, and it's going to get less with all of these facilities that they have. I think we have a neighboring city that has lost a couple of them because they don't have enough business, but I'm still against it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Just a quick comment on that. When I went to the MMA breakfast last week, I think it was, I talked to some select board members of Rowley and Amesbury to kind of get their gauge on how they felt, because they have quite a few businesses. And they said as far as public safety goes, they haven't seen an uptick. It hasn't been any issues that have been brought to them. So just a different perspective, because I was curious. Rowley, I think, has 3. Amesbury has a few.
My opinion is it's maybe time to ask the people of Groveland about this. We did ask them on the ballot, and I believe that passed. And then at the time, I think it was just before the pandemic, it was not real clear how this would all work or how well it would work or what it might bring into a town. There was a lot of concern, as you just said, Ed, about, do we really need this? Is this something we need? Do we have to have it? And so people put the moratorium on it, I believe, is what we voted, something like that. And I believe that was before the pandemic. So it's been 5 or more years. Other towns have these facilities. They do bring in some revenue. Is it going to pay for the whole budget? No. Are we going to be rolling in dough? No. Okay. No different than a large liquor store or something like that. But I still feel like, people have said that taxes are bothering them. Why can't we bring in more commercial? The tendency has been when SD Lumber went up for sale and a restaurant was proposed to go in there, the neighborhood said, no, we don't want all that noise near us. So Groveland is a bedroom community, and we like it that way. I guess that's my take on it. I don't know if we were to vote this through, do we have a say in, like, only in the industrial park? Do we have that right to say that? And then see if anybody's even interested. If nobody's interested, then nothing will happen. Or if town meeting says, no, we just don't want to go down this path, fine. As far as impaired drivers, I think we've got like 6,000 drivers cutting through our town, so they're not getting anything in this town to impair them. They're just racing through. I think cell phones are the biggest impairment on the road right now, unfortunately. Too many people on their phones, reading their text messages, not paying attention. And it's bad. I think it's worse than impairment because it's just creating chaos out there. So I don't mind bringing this forward to the town meeting and asking them, what do you say? I mean, if we have, 3 or 4 liquor stores now, do we need any more? I personally don't think so. I think that's plenty. If people want this, they could say yes, but I think we should have our ducks in a row. I mean, I think we should know, can we restrict it to the industrial zone? Can we keep it out of the downtown where the kids are? You know, going into Jerry's to get soda and chips and stuff, or up at Nicole's. Can we keep it out of those areas? That's my question. Do we have that ability? That's all. Other than that, I think bringing the question forward again, it seems timely. People can say yes, people can say no. Is it just a town meeting vote at this point? Rebecca, is it just a town meeting vote? I don't know why it was a ballot vote in the beginning, but,
So it was a ballot vote in the beginning because you needed to, you were voting to prohibit the practice, and therefore it required a ballot vote. If you're looking to allow such, then it just needs to be a town meeting vote.
no, but I believe we did a ballot vote and said yes, and then we went to town meeting and said no.
Correct, but then when you
Okay.
went back and said no, you also had a ballot vote. So
Oh,
you
we
had
did do
two.
another ballot vote,
So you
okay.
had the first one, which was when the state went through the process and
Okay.
you voted yes. And then when they had the discussion, the select board said, we didn't realize that that would allow for the retail marijuana, so then they went forward to prohibit such in 2018, and then went forward with a ballot vote, in which case the noes won. That was all outlined in the outline that I provided the board. So we did
Mm. Okay.
have a second ballot vote, in
Okay.
which case the board voted no, or the town
Okay.
voted no.
So we've been going back and forth like a ping pong ball. I don't mind bringing it forward to the town meeting. I don't think it's something that we should be afraid to let the people talk about and vote on, make a
Jason?
decision.
Yes, Ed?
Maybe the sensible thing to do would be that the selectmen have no recommendation on this. It could go,
It's fine.
bring it up to the people.
Yep, let the people decide. Make sure that it's in proper order and make sure we can answer questions, right? As to where it would be allowed. Would that be in this or not in this?
That would be up to the planning board, correct?
So the warrant before you has multiple different warrant articles, and this is one article because
Okay.
it's prohibited in the general bylaw as well as the zoning bylaw. And your zoning bylaw is where you get into the nitty-gritty details of where things can be cited, the site plan review process, et cetera. So this first one is just about repealing it from the general bylaw.
Okay.
The next bylaw is in regards to where you can cite it. So if the board would like, we can move on to the next bylaw, in which case you'll have a lot of your questions answered.
Does everybody agree to push this forward to town meeting without a favorable or unfavorable recommendation?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
All right?
And then planning board is going to weigh in on the zoning issue, correct?
They have made a recommendation, correct?
Okay.
And this is the combination of Articles 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, is that all the ones they want to put together?
So for the next few, so the next few are specific to other bylaws, but for the marijuana-related articles, they wanted to, I think it's 19 through 21 were the original ones, they wanted to combine into one.
Okay.
Should we jump down to those?
Sure.
You want to do that? Okay, hold on.
So that now becomes Article 17.
Oh,
And you'll
okay, so they
see,
already, don't jump down.
Oh, okay.
Oh, jump back up?
Okay, hold on.
so
So what?
We
what did they-
combined all
They
of-
combined, what we have here has already been combined,
correct,
okay. And that is now going to be Article 17.
correct.
Okay, it's not on mine.
So
Mine
what
is
it will
driveway.
say is it will say, take all three of those articles, and it'll say, to see if the town will vote to amend the Groveland zoning bylaw, Article 7, Section 6, marijuana establishment prohibited, where it's prohibited again in the general bylaw, amend Table 50-4.5 to add marijuana retailers and marijuana establishments, and to delete recreational marijuana establishments as a prohibited use, and amend Article 7, Section 5, reserved, all as set forth below. And then it combines all of those different ones, where it has now the crossed-out language where it says prohibited, the table of uses where it now has the marijuana retailer, marijuana establishments, and then it has the actual bylaw itself, which gives you all of the applicability in the site plan review process, et cetera. And so to Kathy's point, what was drafted does in fact give you parameters as to where they can be cited. So marijuana retailers can only be permitted within the business and industrial district, as well as non-retail establishments only in the industrial. And then as part of those requirements, if you jump down, it says that it can only be cited 1,000 feet away from a daycare and/or a school, et cetera. That puts more restrictions on the actual siting of these individual operations, so it limits the area within the business and the industrial zone in which they can be cited. And we did put together a map in order to provide a more detailed understanding of exactly what areas would now be eligible if this in fact passed, and I'm just trying to find that for you now.
Oh, okay.
But that's not in our packet.
So that's
I-
the article, like I said, that gets a little messy because town
It's
council reviewed
19.
the articles after I provided them to you Friday for their legal analysis in
Okay.
order for them to move
It
forward.
isn't, it's in the digital in 19 through.
19, I have 21, 22.
Wait,
Am I,
am I,
23 goes
wait.
to two.
I'm sorry, I'm at 23, sorry, right?
21, 22, and 23?
23, yeah, you're right, those are the numbers.
Hold on.
Yes, zoning districts and location, yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 21, 22, 23 will be combined. So should we skip 21? I don't know. You tell me. I just know number 13 is about hair salons.
So the question is, well, you're going to get a map, but the question is, can they operate anywhere in like the downtown area?
They cannot.
Okay. And what about the, not that it's as used by children, but where the ice cream place is, Maria's, in that area? I mean, we have an ice cream place with lots of fun things to do. I wouldn't think that parents would
What you'll see
appreciate.
on the screen is the eligible parcels are the green hashtag right under where it says school, daycares, and playgrounds. And you'll see that you have the buffer that's created through residential and/or schools. So the areas that you're going to be able to cite the locations would be in the industrial zone, which you can see all right there, which is hashed in green. And that, again, is only if there are no schools, daycares, and residential buildings. So
Okay.
you'll also see that we included the protected open space land, so that does preclude a lot of areas in which you can actually cite these particular companies, so, or facilities, excuse me. So you'll see this big one for, just to get yourself situated, that's 150 Center Street right there. So you can see that's the area in the industrial zone. Over here's the area industrial zone. Then you have over here, and then over in this area, and that's around Federal Way. So those are the areas in which case it would be allowed. When you go into the business zone, it gets a little bit more trickier because of, again, the proximity to the residences, schools, parks, playgrounds, et cetera. So
Okay.
you're really only limited in the entire business zone to this right here where the cursor is. Those are the only two locations in the business zone that meet those parameters. And if you look further over here, you'll see because of Perry Park Preschool, the Pines, et cetera, this business zone area and the downtown, and there's another preschool educational facility down here in Elm Park, there is no way for you to have any of those situated in your town center.
Okay.
So the original bylaw did not include the 1,000. It included, I believe it was 500, but the planning board, through their process and public hearing process, increased it to the 1,000. So again, the map really kind of shows you the areas, and if you really kind of take into consideration what's around there currently, it doesn't necessarily allow for many of these to be developed or constructed here in Groveland.
Okay. And to Ed's point, there's so many now, we may not get any interest anyway.
Right.
Yeah,
There's no guarantee. Yep. Okay.
yes, Joe.
I'm just being a good observer, and I'm not asking you to change anything, but just at least consider the possibility that next meeting, people look to leadership for guidance. And this is very difficult, and I have my own opinion. But going with a neutral position is not going to be helpful. I think people are going to want to look to the board and say, are you for or against this? Now, as an observer, I sense a little bit of relief. I'm relieved based on what I just saw. So you may want to reconsider either going unfavorable or favorable, not just leave it the Pontius Pilate concept of, it's up to you guys, because that can create a floor fight. And that's not going to be productive, so. Now, is it fair to say that this would be favorable to the zoning board? Is that anticipated?
It wouldn't go through it went through the planning board.
I'm sorry, planning board?
It went through the planning board in the public hearing process for zoning bylaw changes. If you look at the actual language for the marijuana establishments, I believe it falls under the zoning board of appeals in terms of the approval body. Says it says special permit A, which is the zoning board of appeals. So they would have to go through the zoning board of appeals if they wanted to seek approval.
Okay. Again, just give it some thought. Maybe next meeting, I think taking a position is better than not taking a position. Thank you.
Thank you. So you had said that, which articles are combined?
So this one combines,
22, 23.
I'm saying 21, 22, 23, but I don't know.
That's what it looks like.
Okay.
combines Article 19,
19.
sorry, Article 20, no. Article 21, Article 22,
Yep.
Article 23.
Okay,
21, 22,
thank you.
and 23.
It's not even 10 at night.
It's not.
Starting to unravel,
Where's that coffee cart?
right? They'll be up all night, right?
Do you want me to read the summaries for those? Or should we wait until they're combined? Do we?
I think I want to wait to see the combined
Okay.
article.
So
Yeah.
they're not combined in terms of, what you have in front of you is combined. So
Okay. They're just
it's
grouped.
just not the articles. So instead of saying Article 21, to see if the town will, and then what this says underneath, the crossed out, it's going to have this one thing that I have highlighted. But everything underneath each individual is going to stay exactly the same. You're gonna see exactly what you see in Article 21, which is the cross out. You're gonna see exactly what you see in Article 22, which is the table. You're
Okay.
gonna see exactly what you see here in Section 50-70.5 in Article 23. The only thing that we're combining is the top part, which is the formality of it all, which says to see if the town will vote to amend the Groveland zoning bylaw. That's the only thing that's being combined. All other language, all other specific processes are all the same as you see it in the articles that you have before you.
Now, you had that listed as Article 17, but Article 17 here is common driveways.
Correct, because
Yeah.
up above, like I had mentioned earlier as well, they seek to combine personal services and mixed use. So above, you'll see that you have multiple mixed-use articles. That was the one that I was just reading off, that you have mixed use, and you're gonna change the table in Article 20, and then you're gonna change it in Article 19. They say you should combine Article 19 and Article 20. And then the same with the above for common drive. Instead of having the definition and then the bylaw, town council says that you should in fact combine the two bylaws into the one. So have Article 17 will be combined with Article 16.
Okay.
So that's why I get, those few in the zoning section get very confusing.
Or, okay.
I mean, if we want to go back, I can show you exactly which ones. You have the ones in front of you, and I'll show you exactly what we
But
mean.
it's not going to, it's going to be presented this way to town.
No, it's going to be presented the way that it's up on this screen, which is they're combined together. Because without approving one, you can't approve the others.
Right.
Right.
You can't approve a repeal and then not approve the bylaw. You can't approve so they're all cohesive, like the common driveway. If you don't approve the definition, you can't approve the bylaw. If you don't approve mixed uses in one table.
Right, no, I get it, but just trying to figure out how we got down to 17. Because we're combining a lot of other things. We jumped ahead, we grouped up 3, and now all of a sudden we're back on 17.
We still haven't done
So-
13 or 14.
Yeah, we're still on 13. Those seem
So
easy.
if you want to go back, I think the easiest and cleanest way is to go back to the section where it says zoning bylaw and take each individual one, so you can see where it condenses, instead of jumping just to the marijuana bylaw.
Agreed.
So we, for right now, we didn't do anything on 12.
Correct.
We can discuss that after. So we should pick back up at 13 and just go through them all.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Let's do that.
All right. Article 13, summary. The current zoning bylaw does not include provisions allowing service establishments such as hair salons. However, these uses exist in town as they were legally established prior to the adoption of zoning regulations. This article seeks to amend the zoning bylaw to explicitly permit such uses moving forward.
Yeah. I recommend favorable action. Need a nail salon.
All
hair
right,
salon.
so everybody that recommends favorable action on
Hair and nails, we need that.
13? We
Yeah.
got Kathy is favorable, she recommended it.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Double favorable.
Okay.
14.
Article 14, summary. The current zoning bylaw does not include provisions allowing service establishments, such as hair salons. However, these uses exist in town as they were legally established prior to the adoption of zoning regulations. This article seeks to amend the zoning bylaw to explicitly permit such uses moving forward.
I'll
I
recommend.
move favorable.
Yep,
Why did
agreed.
that sound like so much the same one that you just did?
Because now it will read the same, where you'll have the definition, which will be included as terms defined, and then
All
you'll
right,
have the
so
table of
Article
use.
14 is just 13.
Correct.
All right, we got a combo.
Okay, so those two are combined together, so now we've done 13, because we've already done favorable, it's all the same. So now 15, is 15 being combined with what? 15 and 16?
No, 16's with 17.
So 15 standalone?
15 stands alone.
Okay,
Excellent,
so
okay.
it's actually not 15, because we've just done 13, so this is 14.
Correct.
Okay, you keep track of the numbers for me.
Yeah. So are we on this zoning thing about?
And on what we see as Article 15.
Yep,
but when
gotcha.
it'll be different.
I don't
when
care
it's
what number it
presented.
is in the
Okay,
future. I
was
just-
what, yeah.
Yeah.
The summary here is the addition of this footnote clarifies that any proposed planned unit development will be required to comply with the town's inclusionary zoning bylaw. Ensuring this expectation is communicated as early as possible. This does not create a new requirement.
Any
So-
questions?
Yes, I just, in terms of definitions, I know we hear the words planned unit development a lot, but is that another name for a 40B, or is that any multi-unit development?
That's any multi-unit development.
And what's the threshold that makes it become a PUD, a PUD? How many units?
So in order to be a planned unit development, you need to have a certain amount of acres. So you have to have 10-plus acres in order to move forward with a PUD.
Okay, so you need 10 acres, and is there a minimum quantity of units, like 10 or 20, or just the acres?
I don't believe that the bylaw establishes a minimum quantity.
Okay, but
Because
the
if you
10
look at
acres.
Whitestone Village, that's a PUD. If you look at Nichols Village, that's a PUD. So
Okay.
they had 10 tracts, they had 10 acres, and then they were able to
Okay.
subdivide with apartments, townhouses, whatever it may be in terms of what they styled. So, I mean, if you're talking about an Avalon style, you might get more units as opposed to what you get with a townhouse style. So they don't offer a max unit.
Okay, and so what is this article doing to this?
It's just to reinstate the fact that they have to comply with the inclusionary affordable bylaw.
And what does that mean? Does that mean that Whitestone didn't?
Correct. So after you, certain developments, after a certain amount of units, you must comply with the inclusionary housing bylaw, or you must make a payment in lieu to the Affordable Housing Trust.
Okay.
So it's
these-
just reaffirming it, because a lot of people think that if they have a planned unit development, that they don't necessarily need to comply with the inclusionary zoning. So the executive coordinator had multiple conversations, and we're like, it would be really nice if we just had a footnote that said that you must comply with the inclusionary zoning. It does not change the process, it does not change the intent, it does not change anything that's originally there. It's just another way to identify for developers that they must comply with the inclusionary housing bylaw.
And so they either have to provide the affordable housing as part of their PUD or pay us.
Correct.
Okay. I'll move favorable,
Okay?
so it's clarifying.
This is a clerical item. It is already required.
Okay, yep.
So everybody is favorable?
Yep.
Unanimous.
All right,
Well, you said 16 and 17 are going to be combined together because 16 is
Yep.
just the definition.
correct. Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
I'll
that's
read-
going to become 15.
So I'll read the summary for 16 and 17 for us. The current bylaw does not allow the application of common driveways as intended. The proposed language clarifies and permits common driveways for lots that meet the established requirements and additionally can allow for a reduction in frontage requirements with further permitting, thereby allowing the creation of up to 3 dwellings where otherwise only 2 would be permitted.
Anybody have any questions?
Well, why would we want to allow that? Didn't we just say we're getting enough units? I guess, what's the benefit to the town of doing this?
So common driveways can be very helpful when you're taking a look at developments that have come into play, like Oakland Terrace. Oakland Terrace, they had to go through a definitive subdivision process, in which case they sought excessive waivers from building the roadway. Because as you can see, it only serves 3 houses, and they had to construct it, and then they had to ask for waivers instead of the 50-foot to make it a 30-foot. No sidewalks, no et cetera, not to build it towards roadway grade, because it was only servicing 3 houses. It was only supposed to remain private in perpetuity. So instead of encouraging developers to build larger roadways on smaller developments, we are looking at a way to create common drives that limit the amount of impact on an actual development. So instead of creating a 5-lot subdivision, it might be a lot cheaper for you, because you don't have to build a roadway, to have a common drive that will only ever service 3 dwelling units. So it will limit the impact on the environment, it will limit the impact on the area, it fits more inside with the characteristics of the community, instead of, again, creating a Katy Lane or another type of definitive subdivision where you're seeing 9 residential housing units, like 181 Rear School Street. There's a plot of land that can service a max of 3 houses that you could potentially just use a common drive that will look like the everyday driveway that you drive by on your way to your house. It's not a big subdivision. So common drives are just another mechanism to limit the amount of development happening in communities, to, again, discourage larger developments and encourage more small scale.
Okay, and the private drive remains private? The town's
Correct.
not going to take ownership or maintenance cost for it?
Correct.
Okay.
And the key components in this particular bylaw are the fact that they must have the required amount of frontage on
Yep.
their lot. And if they wanted to, the planning board would be able to grant a reduction of up to 50 feet of frontage along a public street, road, or way for lots 2 and 3, but the first lot must have the 150 feet of frontage. So that, again, gives your neighbors the flexibility of having a larger distance from any type of development, instead of having a 50-foot right-of-way parked right next to their house.
Yeah, I see.
So there are other mechanisms, again, where it looks like it's encouraging development, but it's actually not encouraging development in the way that you think. It's actually encouraging it to be, again, less impactful and more in nature with the characteristics
Right.
of the community.
More rural, yeah. Okay, I would move favorable for that.
Everybody favorable? Unanimous.
Okay, from what I'm seeing here, it looks like 18, 19, and 20 have the same summary, so it's safe to say those
And
are,
that would be Article 16.
okay, wonderful. The summary here is the warrant article would allow existing non-conforming buildings to be brought into compliance and support more financially viable business development.
What's stopping them from becoming compliant now?
We don't allow for mixed-use development as part of our current bylaw. Anything that you see that has mixed use is already because it existed prior to zoning. So this allows for mixed-use development, but only when
The
a
building's
business
brought into
occupies
compliance.
the bottom floor.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that, though, what Daniel's built, right? Daniel's
So
Electric?
they have a caretaker's unit, so that's a
Yes.
separate part of the bylaw.
So this is
So it's
different?
not a mixed unit, it's a caretaker's unit. So there's parameters associated with them having somebody living there that takes care of the building.
Okay,
So it's not like if you wanted to rent a unit, you could rent a unit. There's other stipulations that allows for them to have that unit in the industrial zone.
so are we talking about maybe somebody who builds multi-units but puts commercial space on the first floor?
Correct.
That's
So like
what,
you have what you somewhat see in your downtown, like the Stark and Cronk building, that's a business on the first floor, and then they have residential units above.
Yeah.
That existed prior to zoning, so that's allowed to continue to exist. But we don't allow that anywhere else. So unless it exists prior to zoning, you're not able to have mixed use here in Groveland. The building commissioner is saying that there's a lot of those that exist that are non-compliant yet exist, and it also opens up another avenue for creation of housing while still maintaining the business aspect
Right.
of things on the bottom floor.
so like where the, I forget what it's called now, the pizza place, an Indian pizza place? They have apartments.
Grove.
Pizza Grove. They have apartments upstairs.
So that existed prior to zoning.
Okay,
So
and
that's why when he said in his summary, bring into compliance, because
Mm-hmm.
there's multiple units of such that
situations of
don't.
this,
Right.
yeah, there are, especially downtown and in the strip mall.
And what you'll see downtown is that you'll see that there was, in fact, businesses on the bottom and residential at the top, but the businesses are failing, and now the bottom is becoming residential, and it's just becoming a residential unit. So
Okay,
the goal is to, again, encourage the business aspect of that, along with the housing.
Right, so we would allow somebody in the commercial or industrial zone only, right?
Correct.
couldn't
They would
do this
only
in
be
a
on the
res-
Top floor, correct.
Excuse me? I'm sorry.
They would only be able to be on the top, as you'll see, the 3 or 4 uses, a minimum of 50% of floor area on the first floor shall be devoted to permitted businesses to be eligible. So they would not be eligible to put a mixed-use building in without having 50% of the floor area designated for business use.
Right, but could they put this type of unit into a residential neighborhood?
No, it would only be, as you can see in the table of uses. In
Okay.
residential 1, it's non-permitted. Residential 2, non-permitted.
Oh,
Residential 3,
okay, okay.
non-permitted. Limited business, it would be permitted. Business zone, it would be permitted. And industrial zone, it would be not permitted.
Where is limited business zone, like, for example?
There's only a small section. I think it's a little bit on Federal Way, I want to say, but I
Federal-
can-
Oh, no, okay, okay,
but I
yeah,
have my
I
map
got you, I
up,
got
too.
you.
The
Yeah.
business pretty
Federal.
much covers Main Street from
Yep,
Elm Park to
yeah,
Broad Street.
Business, not limited business.
Business, yeah.
no,
Business, yeah.
limited business, Federal Way. I thought Federal Way was industrial all this time, right? No? Isn't that, right? Off of School Street?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Limited business.
Which you already have mixed use on Main Street as it is with
Correct, yep.
Yeah.
a couple places.
Right.
It would be nice.
So, I mean, if somebody decided to buy the strip mall and redo it, they would have an encouragement to put the apartments there as well.
So it's a very small area of limited
Okay.
business, actually. If you look at it, it's actually just where, ironically, it's just where Bill Dark's
Oh, the dentist office?
dentist shop is.
Yeah,
And then the other one that I think is an actual residential unit. So it's this pink one right here. That's the only limited business we have in town. The
Oh,
red
okay.
over here is business. And the way that it's situated is actually pretty funky because you only have the business that goes up, like Jason said, all the way to the Little Red Schoolhouse or Broad
Okay.
Street right there.
yeah,
And then around Washington Street on this side.
nice.
And then again, the majority is residential, and then you have a big chunk of industrial in the center towards Georgetown.
Okay. No, that sounds reasonable. It sounds all right to me. I mean, I'd move favorable recommendation on that.
All right, so everybody that moves favorable on that?
Yep.
Unanimous.
Oh, would we be able to have like some of these like handout little maps or something?
They will be on the presentation slide. And then we can provide some separate to leave at the table with the clerk.
Yeah, because I think people would like that, you know, because just like me, you live here a long time, and then you still go, where is limited business?
Right.
You know, you don't know these terms as well as you think you do.
All right, so 21 mentions the repeal again.
Yeah, and then we
So
have
21 is the repeal, but it's in the zoning bylaw, not the general bylaw.
Understood. So that 21, 22, 23, these are the groupings that we talked about.
And that becomes Article 17.
Okay.
Right.
So
Let's-
there's two separate summaries here. So the article would repeal the current prohibition on marijuana establishments, allowing the town to update its zoning bylaw to regulate such businesses. And this article would allow marijuana establishments and the sale of recreational marijuana in the town by establishing the necessary zoning provisions to permit such uses with the goal of promoting local business and supporting economic development.
I think we just wait on it for the next meeting, get it all put together. Because we can do all the community preservation articles, because Adam already talked to us about all of them.
Yes.
We got
Take those
that.
all as one big group if the
Yep.
board chooses.
Yes, I
I'd
would,
love to.
yeah, all the way through, so I don't know what your numbers are on your thing, Rebecca. On mine, it's 24 all the way to, was it 33? Yeah, 33 are all community preservation, and I would move favorable on those.
Agreed.
All right, so everybody to move favorable on the
On the CPA articles.
CPA articles.
Yes.
Yep. Ed,
Ed?
CPA
Yes.
articles, the ones Adam went through with us.
All the CBA articles,
Yep.
Yes. Favorable, unfavorable?
not on all of them.
Oh, okay. Do you want us to go one by one?
Which, there was one or two?
Negative on Article 28,
28 favorable on the rest?
yes.
There you go.
Oh, the Perry Park, yeah.
So unanimous on all except for 28, where it's 4-1.
Okay.
So not in favor, not favorable?
One person not
One person.
favorable.
It's all
On
favorable.
Pe-
Oh.
On the Perry Park, and then otherwise, all the others are unanimous favorable. Yes. And I move favorable on all the transfers under Article 34.
Yeah, I believe Ellen already gave us a heads up on that, too.
Mm-hmm.
All favorable?
And on the revolving accounts, as far as the spending limits for all of them, favorable. I move favorable recommendation on those.
Was there any large increases to the revolving accounts?
We increased the VZ Memorial Park spending since they're close to their 130 this year to 150. Otherwise, all of the others stay the same.
All in favor?
Yep.
Unanimous?
And Article 36, transfers of $137,000 from the following. Oh, this is taking money, right? Accepting money. Yes, favorable. We like money.
Yes, I believe this is from the electric department and then from free cash, which
Yeah,
will go back into OPEB.
Yep, I move favorable.
Everybody that's favorable? Unanimous.
Okay, next one, the school stabilization fund.
And this is primarily for Bagnell, right?
It's for any school project, but it's at the town meeting needs to vote in order to spend the money.
Right, but it's to keep up with the things at Bagnell. Yes, okay.
That's the primary purpose, but it
Yep.
is written so that it's general in case something was necessary, you'd be able to utilize it for the middle high school. But that would be
Okay.
town meeting that would have to decide.
Right.
Understood.
I move favorable.
Everybody favorable on that?
Yep.
Unanimous.
All right, 38. Transfer of free cash to the following accounts.
Anything that stands out here?
It's all
No.
of the capital improvement projects that we had moved forward. It does include what Select Board Member Watson had requested for the 10,000 to purchase the electronic voting devices. It also includes the trash cart disposal, as we talked about, as a separate free cash article. And then again, the other accounts that we didn't necessarily talk about for capital, but that's the personnel buyback and replenishing our reserves in both of the capital, the regular stabilization, and then also making a donation towards the municipal building improvements account,
And what was our certified free cash?
1.8 million.
Okay, so I'll make a motion for 1,033,124,000. 1,033,124. Favorable.
All
Favorable.
in favor?
Everything's a million.
Unanimous.
I know.
Right? Used to be
Right.
everything was 500,000. Now everything's $1 million.
All right, so that was 38.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, we get $2 million.
That's right. Yeah, so 39, the article would allow the town to borrow $2,650,000 for roof replacement and electrical upgrades at the town hall complex. The project will be funded through borrowing and operating revenues. It will not increase taxes.
I'll move favorable on that. Article 39 for $2,650,000.
Everybody favorable?
Yep.
Yep.
Unanimous.
All right, Article 40 relates to public educational and government access and cable-related funds derived from license fees paid by cable providers, including Comcast, to support local cable access services. This article appropriates $150,000 from the fund for fiscal year 2027 to cover cable access services, supplies, and equipment under the direction of the town administrator. These funds are restricted for PEG-related purposes and do not impact the general fund.
I'll move favorable for Article
Yes.
for $150,000.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I apologize for breaking the rhythm here. On the previous, you don't have to do anything, just get ready for an objection. Someone could say you're going to put a 30-year roof on a building that has a 10-year life, potentially. So just get ready for that objection, that type of objection.
Yep.
I'm
Okay.
anticipating that.
Absolutely.
But this is a forever building.
Is it?
Strong walls.
The strong one. All right. Thank you. So 41, the Municipal Modernization Act and the COVID-19
We
recovery.
didn't do the vote on the pay.
Did we approve 40? No.
No, favorable,
Everybody favorable?
Sorry.
It's all right.
Yep.
that's all right.
Unanimous.
Okay.
All right, now 41?
Yeah.
The Municipal Modernization Act and COVID-19 Recovery Act changed how premiums and surplus proceeds are treated. Excluded debt must now treat the premium as general fund revenue, and the legislative body must vote on the premium amount.
So move favorable on $4,016 from the premium received from the sale of bonds. And that's all.
Everybody favorable?
Yep.
Yep.
Unanimous.
42, there's no summary, which is fine.
This is our omnibus again.
Yeah, which we already did favorable.
We already did that.
Okay,
Yep.
excellent.
And then 43, move favorable to fix the salary and compensation, blah, blah, blah.
Favorable,
It's a standard.
yeah.
So everybody favorable?
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right, now we're in enterprise fund section.
Okay.
And this, again, is just housekeeping, right?
Yep.
This is just
So
the
this
standard
is-
motions.
Their budget, it's their salaries and expenses for water, sewer, and then taking retained earnings for the lead service line project.
I'll move favorable on 44, 45, and 46.
Good.
Excellent.
Everybody favorable?
Yep.
Unanimous.
I think that's it. No? Yeah. Yes. Not bad, 9:20.
No, I know, and then circling back on just a few.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Well, we just have the two, right? Everything to do with marijuana.
Yeah. Rebecca, thank you for keeping us so well organized. Really, really, we couldn't get this far. I remember so many years before we had a town administrator being here until 10:30, 11 at night.
Still early, Kathy.
And we just bleary-eyed. I didn't even know what I was voting on. What's left, Chairman?
Massachusetts Municipal Association Legislative Update. Because Becky and Ed were there.
Oh. Well,
And the one thing I was really curious about is I understand they were discussing about the state paying 100% for special education.
oh, the circuit breaker? Ooh, that
Not
would
that
be
it's a guarantee at
sweet.
this point.
Yeah.
That would
I
be
was
very
curious what
helpful.
everybody, what they had to say about it.
You have some notes?
So if Becky or Ed would like to chime in.
I don't have notes on that one.
Uh-oh.
I think we were just excited to see it.
Yeah.
It's the potential, what did it say, $802.7 million. Because they're just seeing that, recognizing that special education is growing.
Escalating,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that is something on the fiscal year 2027 budget slide that was presented as far as what they were looking at for improvements. Some of the other things were like Chapter 70 was a 3.2% increase.
Yeah.
What was the other things? Unrestricted government aid, 2.5% increase. But the MMA was clear, like, this is good, but it's still not keeping
Not
up
nearly
with,
what we need.
with everything. I think they said that with a few of these items when it came to the budget, but just trying to be
Yeah.
somewhat positive about some of the,
Yeah. Any increase is better than no increase.
right,
You know.
right.
That it is, and I think since they're finally organized, because I know that me and Steve sat with State Rep Ramos, and we brought up 100% funding for special education.
Yeah.
She said that that would never happen because it was federally mandated. So it's good to see that, that they are considering it, that they are working towards it. And the one thing that I think we should do is push forward, because I still think it needs to be removed completely from the school budget. I think the the Department of Transitional Assistance that Massachusetts has that handles SNAP benefits should also handle the special education funding.
That's maybe not good.
Because I think the way that it's set up now, it's such a budget buster for towns, especially small towns, where it could be upwards of $600,000, $700,000. That would cost us to cut the COA, the library, firefighters, police, and
Right.
completely decimate our budget. But when it's taken out, and can you imagine the focus that puts on the family that has the special needs? They're already stressed
But
enough.
we do get reimbursed. I mean, so that's the
A
thing.
portion of it.
I think it's like 80%. No,
It
it's been-
varies.
I did a chart, I have a chart on it. I tracked it over the years, and they were doing pretty well. The thing is, it lags a year. So if there's a significant increase, like during that school year, they have to adapt to it. And then they submit. And like the charts, and maybe you're right, I'm moving it to another agency. Maybe you're correct, because when you look at the chart, that transportation is broken out from the education component, and then they have all this fancy mishmash going on. And to be honest, I just looked at the overall percentage to make sure that Pawtucket was getting, they've been doing not horribly. I mean, they don't get all of it.
Yes.
But regional,
And it varies.
regional.
Nothing is guaranteed in terms of the percentage.
100%, 100% reimbursement on regional transportation, to me, is a no-brainer, because regional school districts save them so much money.
And I
so
believe that
much
was
money.
discussed as well.
And and they promised us all this when we regionalized, and you read the recruiting forms for schools to regionalize, and they sell it to you, and they tell you, and initially, we were getting quite a bit of additional funding for, as a regional school district when we first voted it. And then they started to just pull it back and pull it back. And,
Well, it's like they do everything, right?
but regional school districts, by definition, require busing. Regional means you're not gonna be able to walk to your middle and high school safely, you know. It's a regional, but we save them so much money by regionalizing, having one central office. You know, sharing and moving students around for special education services. It's such a huge savings. It's so short-sighted.
I agree.
If they would fund that 100%, then towns that are trying to run standalone like Georgetown would be more inclined to start looking around, right? For where to
Alright.
jump in, yeah.
So with that, unless you have anything else to add to the
Nope,
with the
I'm good.
legislation? Breakfast, Ed?
I don't think so.
Any other notes you took that you'd care to share?
Yeah, I just got some notes on that. You mentioned that the revenue was above the benchmark for February, and year-to-date, it's up 3.2% over last year. That's a good sign, but they'll spend it. The fiscal year '27 budget, the proposed changes to collect outstanding excise tax and parking tickets, looks like they were going to recommend discontinuing driver's licenses and registrations for those that owed. Municipal Empowerment Act, they make permanent the codification of remote public meetings, and I thought that was already done.
I think they just extended it so they could
Okay.
move it.
Another thing that I got a laugh out of, under the OPEB, they want to do, form a commission. Well, that's all we need, is another commission to do nothing. And they're probably going to be high-salaried people, but that's what they're looking to do. Energy, goal to address gas and electric affordability concerns. But not one mention in the gas and electric affordability, not one to ask the governor to open up the gas pipelines that she shut down and then decided that later on that she didn't really say it, but they have her on tape, which is a good thing. $385 million for Clean Water Trust, clean energy, small clean energy projects, solar, generator projects under 250, and storage projects under 100 million. But interesting, sometimes after the meeting, when you're doing the networking, that becomes interesting. Well, so I asked them if they would advocate for an order to the legislature, and no comment, which you expect. I also got a no comment from ask them, would you support term limits for our legislature? No comment. So, it's about what I expected from them, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. Becky, what else did you have notes on?
About the same thing. I mean, they brought up the fact that updates in procurement and borrowing laws because of the snow hauling costs, but our town administrator was awesome and was able to not have that be a problem this year, so shout out to you, like how I snuck that one in. Let me see, a discussion on local option revenue tools. So that Municipality Empowerment Act, I wanted to look into a little bit more. It seemed to have a lot of things to it, but, they just talked about pay attention to all the bills that are in progress, advocate for the things that you want. That's all I really got, yeah.
Yes, I think some of those bills are really important. And I really do share a certain sentiment in terms of not forming more commissions, because they are expensive. And some of the bills that they talk about forming the commission, they don't talk about the cost associated with it. And I think that's a big mistake.
Yeah. I had.
I think they already have the commission form that governs what the what they can spend. They don't need another
Right.
to tell them what's gonna be affordable and what's not.
I think what I had here was they were looking at like long-term strategies for addressing retiree healthcare liabilities, which is a major structural pressure on local budgets. That was the wording I had, so,
Interesting.
yeah, that was the purpose.
So it's definitely something maybe we should look into and move accordingly. I noticed we don't have any minutes to approve.
Correct.
It's been a while since I've seen any minutes.
I will check in.
Hmm?
I will check in.
Thanks, I appreciate that. I don't want to fall outside of our obligations to the rules, which I know we have in the very distant past. Old or unfinished business committee board template, Recreation Committee. I don't think we have any more information on that. I don't think we need to revisit that at this time. Town administrator time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the last minute that I have approved is 1/20, so January 20th, 2026. And then I have 3 sets outstanding with Kathy Ingram, so I'll follow up with her again on that item. For reports to the select board, for the town report, we're currently reviewing the final draft of the town report, and we'll be getting that ready for print, so that will be available for town meeting. For the IT Community Compact Grant that we applied for the Business Continuity and Disaster Recovery Plan, we did receive notification that we were unsuccessful with our application and we did not receive funding, but we are looking at alternative options to try and find a way that we can fund that particular project. For the speed radar signs and the grant request that we had submitted 2 locations, one on Center Street heading into West Newbury, as well as one on Salem Street near Chesterton. We were successful with our request, so we will be installing those in the next few months. For the fiscal year 2025 audit, I'm pleased to report that the town received a clean audit opinion in its financial statements. You have received a copy of that in your correspondence, as well as the full financial statements. We can print them for your convenience. I do believe we printed one for Ed and Jason already. We did want to call attention to the internal control document in regards to the establishment at VZ, but we are working to provide a pathway forward, so I think that we are on task to rectify that issue. For Washington Park Field, we are working with the Groveland Youth Baseball League to ensure that we are able to partner with our leagues that are utilizing our property. Specifically, they're looking to do some landscaping work over at the field to get the field ready for the baseball season, widening the pathways, et cetera. Thankfully, they brought it to our attention. That does qualify for prevailing wage rates since we do own the property. So we are able to move forward and hopefully get that rectified before their April 11th deadline. So we are on task. We should be good to go. It's going to be a true partnership in relation to them providing some funding to allow this to happen, while some of the fees that we have collected will also go into helping making that happen. We had a great meeting with the president of the league, and we talked about a couple of other things that we could partner with them on in regards to potentially installing some turf for their batting cages, et cetera. So I do think that this is a great partnership, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this will move forward. For police detail policy, the select board actually did in fact approve a permit for a outside organization to utilize the Pines. This is one of the first events, a large event that we'll be hosting at the Pines that is not Groveland Day and is not associated with the town. That being said, we ran into a lot of different hiccups because there's a lot of different coordination of an event of this size. So you're talking about over 300 or over 200 people, including 150 vendors and bands and all different folks that will be helping to establish the event. So we did realize that we don't have a police detail policy, and that was something that came into question as to, would a police detail be necessary if there was no alcohol at the event? And so this kind of was an exercise for us to kind of put together our thoughts on what we should do moving forward. So working with the police chief, the captain, as well as the executive coordinator, we did come up with a policy that we will be moving forward with. Additionally, in regards to this specific event, the amount of calls that we received in the office to coordinate the event were quite excessive. So in trying to figure out the coordination of the event, when's the detail, when can they use this, where are they gonna park here? Can somebody tell them how they can have access to water, how they can do all these different things? So it was a lot more heavily intensive in terms of the time that the executive coordinator had to spend on this particular event. So something for the select board to take into consideration when we talk about fees for outside organizations utilizing the Pines is whether or not we should increase that, because the only fee that we're collecting is about, I think it's 150 or 200 max, and that includes the bathroom usage. So it is not really equitable in terms of what we're seeing down at the park. So again, nothing that we need to do right now, but just something that I wanted to bring to your attention. For janitorial staff at VZ Memorial Park, we have posted the position for janitorial staff. I requested that the Conservation Commission have either the conservation agent participate or create a subcommittee to participate in the interviews and to help provide a recommendation for my appointment. They have chosen to move forward with the subcommittee, and we have received 4 applications, and the interviews are scheduled for next Tuesday. I just wanted to also send a reminder for the town administrator evaluations. We have only received 2. I believe that Annie had reached out to Select Board Member Baker about a form issue, which I believe they have rectified, but we do, per the Select Board goals, need to have that at our next regularly scheduled meeting, which would be on April 13th, because the following meeting would be annual town meeting, which we have before town meeting, which is not really the proper time to do that. And then the following meeting won't be until May 11th, because we don't typically meet the following Monday after town meeting, and that also happens to be an election day. So again, the only time that we would be able to have the actual evaluation prior to any reorganization of the board would be on April 13th, or another meeting if the board so chooses to hold a special meeting. So just a friendly reminder for you all. And if anybody needs me to resend or have Annie resend the form, I'm happy to do so. For the permits, meetings, and administrative actions, you'll see the field use permits and special event permits listed. Important upcoming dates, we have the Mass Department of Public Utilities hearing on March 31st. The Whittier RAC meeting is scheduled for April 1st. We have our planning board public hearing for April 6th. Community Preservation Committee is also meeting on April 6th, and then we have candidates night on April 7th. The Conservation Commission is meeting on April 8th, and then again, a friendly reminder that town meeting is on April 27th. For procurement, we have a couple of matters that we addressed. They're listed. If you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them. Projects in progress, I have made a little bit of an update to the list, but mostly everything has stayed the same. For community preservation projects, the only one really outstanding in regards to what I have left over is the shade structures at the Pines, so you will see those go in shortly now that the weather is turning around. Something not listed, just to bring to your attention, is that we will be opening the bathroom shortly at the Pines Recreation Area, and we also should be opening the pickleball tennis courts over at the Pines as well shortly. For grants, I did add 2. There's the dams and seawall grant for the Pleasure Pond Dam removal that we had applied for on Friday, so hopefully we're successful. That does aid in any of the work that we'll be doing with the Salem Street Dam, whether it be repair or replacement. This is just the design phase. It's not any construction. It is also the permitting, so it will need to go through the permitting. As we discussed, we'll be heavily involved with the Conservation Commission during that process, as well as National Heritage, et cetera. The other grant I wanted to bring to your attention is the Community Compact Grant for the municipal fiber. We had tried to apply last year and were unsuccessful, but we have tried again this year. It would connect fiber from the buildings here at Town Hall, which we have connected, being the town Public Safety Building, Town Hall, and the library. It would connect it all the way to the Water and Sewer Building, then up to the Bagnell, and hopefully over to the Groveland Municipal Light Department, so that we would all be able to back each other up if something were to happen. And it also, again, gives us an opportunity to broadcast live as we do in this meeting room here. So there is a public education and government access benefit that we've been working on. For the financial snapshot, you'll see the budget tracking report. I do apologize in printing it out because of the colors, you can't really see. But as we had stated, and as you saw in Ellen's report, which I tried to summarize below, we are on target. There are a couple of those accounts that we are taking a closer look at, specifically like we talked about, and you'll see, and as you saw in the warrant, the legal fees are expected to go over due to additional work that we had to do with the VZ Memorial Park leases, as well as the CBA matters that we have in mediation. currently under review with town council. Then we have the technology line item, as we had talked about on multiple meetings, is expected to go over slightly. So we have added additional monies to that line item, or put an article to add money so that we do not go over this fiscal year. And as Select Member Boucher just said, we have the snow and ice overage that we're also looking to cover with free cash, and do so at the annual town meeting. Other accounts that we're monitoring are the facilities, utilities, and repairs account, the police officers, OT and reserve officers, and the street lighting budget did come over $2,000 and $2,200 over budget due to the rate increases mid-year. So we have that article to fund the other overages. Otherwise, everything seems to be trending in the right direction. For revenues, we've collected 73% of the budget, and expenses were at 70% of the budget. So again, we are on task. The other issue brought to our attention through the town accountant was again, as we had just talked about, the Municipal Empowerment Act and the elimination of vehicle registration and unpaid motor vehicle taxes, and some of the concerns that this would leave us in with uncollected revenues and the inability to collect that revenue, or avenues in which we could proceed with collecting that revenue. So something that we're following closely, and something that we've shared with our state delegation to make sure that they are also monitoring that situation. For grants, I did take another update, or I did make another upgrade to this spreadsheet, so it is slightly updated, but there hasn't been much shift or much changes. But if there's any questions about anything on that list, please let me know. And then I have the list of meetings, events, and seminars that I have attended within the last 2 weeks, if anybody has any specific questions that they would like to ask in regards to any of those.
The large event in terms of the Police-Dale and charges, I imagine if they come back, it's gonna be a lot easier the second time around.
Correct.
And I do want to encourage more events like this, because I think Groveland as a whole will just benefit the residents themselves. So it's something to keep in mind when you're talking about the specific police details and things like that for large events. I don't know that it's going to be any larger than Groveland Day. And I don't believe we have necessarily a police detail down there, but they all are there during Groveland Day, so.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is that, Groveland Day, you have certain vendors set up and you filter in throughout the day. And in this particular event, you're talking about concerts, and you're talking about followers who would attend certain concerts, or whether or not they'd stay throughout the day, or they're just going for one particular concert instead of the same type of, back and forth that you see in Groveland Day. Some people just make a loop and turn out, and that's it. And some people stay longer, so it's just a different type of event. But to your point, we want to encourage such, and we hope that it's a success, and we'll do everything that we can to help make it a success. We just want to be mindful of the taxpayer dollars and the time that we're spending on that instead of other items.
Yes. Yes, Kathy.
Sue, first of all, kudos to Ellen. She did an outstanding summary and update, and especially this Municipal Empowerment Act. And I really feel that we should give some consideration as a select board of sending some kind of directive to the state. Because according to what Ellen is reporting, that part of it, allows you to raise local excise tax. Great, another tax for our residents. We don't necessarily want to do that. However, it takes away from us the ability to mandate a collection of it. In other words, if they don't pay it to us like they're supposed to, then the state takes over and collects it. Right? I'm understanding this right. Mm-hmm. The money goes to the state, not to us. Now, motor vehicle excise is one of our largest receipts, and is a huge pillar to funding our local government operation here, and this would be devastating. And the outset, she estimated about $200,000 or $300,000 loss. That's, when you look at a $25 million budget now? Well, 60% is the school, so do the math. Divide in 3, we're like 8 million. Then you take away another 500,000, and then add in all of our fixed costs that we can't do anything about. This would really, really upset our whole funding of town government and services. And I just feel that to just sit here and read about it is not good enough. So I'm wondering, you know, what else can we do? This is really a stupid idea. So how do we tell them it's a stupid idea? There's absolutely no justifications for the state to take away our local receipts. That's what that is.
I'm a little confused by it, though, because, I mean,
I'm
if
not.
you don't pay your excise tax,
Yes,
then.
you
they-
can't renew your license or your registration, so
Right.
you end up having to pay it.
But when you pay it, you don't come here to pay it.
Yes, you do.
No, you go to the state.
Nope, they
Yes,
don't get the money.
I just did it. I just did it because I missed paying
Not
my excise
according-
taxes the previous year.
No, not according to Ellen, it must come to us, because right now she's saying, under this Municipal Empowerment Act, the money would go to a revenue committee at the state level, and we potentially are already losing out $200,000 or $300,000. That's a lot of money.
Yes, well, I
So,
agree. But
That's stupid.
I agree
can't
if that's
imagine
the
why
case,
the
but
state
I'm
is taking
confused
our-
By why, because, like I said, I mean, I had to go onto the state website and pay my excise tax.
I-
So I could renew my.
I just know from looking
Registration.
at our revenue forecast that excise tax, much as I hate excise tax, is one of our largest local receipts. And for the state to even contemplate tampering with our ability to collect that money is just, I can't even comprehend why they think that's a good idea. That's not a municipal empowerment act, that's stripping municipalities of their
I pay the excise
money.
tax here at the town hall.
Yes.
And do you know what the excise tax is? It's a World War II tax. I thought World War II was over, but they just continued it like they do everything else.
Yeah.
A tax never goes away.
No, it never goes away, Ed, but it should come to the town you live in. You know what I mean? At least I know when I pay my excise tax, you know, and sometimes I miss the bill and pay the demand fee. At least I know that money's coming here, okay? That's where it's going. It's not going to some state revenue connection. That's not municipal empowerment. That's stripping municipals of the power to fund their local services. It's that simple. Somebody needs to step up and point that out. It's ridiculous.
So what it says online is that if you're within 30 days, you pay locally. Otherwise, if it's more than 30 days, you pay the state directly for your excise tax.
Right,
Yes,
and I
where
don't,
does that money go once the state takes it?
well, right now, it might still come back here. We could ask Ellen or the treasurer, right? Rebecca, they would know. But I mean, right now, according to Ellen's summary, she was predicting, if this Empowerment Act goes through, a loss of $200,000 to $300,000 in local receipts. That's a lot of money,
Yeah, it is.
yeah.
So I want
For our local services, that's a lot of money.
I want to verify that that's the case. Because like I said, the state already took my money versus being
Right.
put here locally.
But I would
So
think
do they get to keep it, or does it just get funneled back here?
that's what Ellen says she's not sure about, whether if they send up their own revenue collection place, how do we know we'll get it back? They may redistribute it to other towns. For all I know, yeah, that's what they'll do.
Well, I think we need to get clarification on it.
Well, I asked Ellen, I asked her in an email back to get some clarification, and I just feel like if there's something going on like this, we should really jump in on it.
Oh, yeah, I agree 100%.
know.
I mean, the biggest thing from what I read in terms of us, our inability to collect is we no longer have that, okay, you haven't paid for a year, your registration's due, you have to pay it now. Which, like I said, still goes to the state, but if the state sends it back to us, it's not a big deal. But
Right.
now we no longer have that. So how many years is somebody gonna not pay their excise tax?
Right,
Before it becomes
know.
an issue. And
Yep.
like a lot of things, if you allow somebody to go so far, then they're never gonna be able to pay them. And so does that become an issue? So yeah, I think we need to have more clarification on what the actual Empowerment Act is gonna do with it. Because the first reading of the Empowerment Act was supposed to allow us to invoke additional taxes locally to collect more funds, which I think is not something that I would even consider, but
why should we want to burden our taxpayers further because they're going to take more of our receipts? I mean, this needs to stop. It's not municipal empowerment. It's sneaky way to take our receipts.
Well, like I said, like, we have to get clarification on whether or not they're actually taking them. Because I don't think we have clarification on that yet.
Yeah, the only information that I have available to me is more so in regards to what happens with the enforcement tool. And if they're no longer allowed to place the non-renewal marks on the license, which means that their driving privileges are stopped. And if their driving privileges are stopped, then obviously they're more apt to pay so that they can get their driver's privilege reinstated. But to your point, where the money goes is still after they, because I know the deputy collector is the one who collects it after the demand letter is sent, and you don't pay. So I know to Ed's point, they do pay it here unless it goes to that level, and then I believe it goes to the deputy collector, and I believe they return that money to us. I'm just not entirely sure. So, but I do
That's what
know.
we have to really clarify.
Yeah, but that's the big thing, is that the removal of the enforcement tools is taken away from us. But where the money goes, agreed. I can find that information out.
Removal of enforcement and removal of receipts. Huh. That's not empowering for us. This the Municipal Disabling Act.
Does anybody else have any other questions for Rebecca? No?
No.
We have select board time and reports. Kathy?
Yes. I just noticed that I got an email from Lindsay Green from the Garden Club to myself and Anthony up at the cemetery, and the garden out front is moving ahead. Spring is here, and she's sending me pictures of things. So do you want me just to coordinate this with Rebecca, or do you want this to come back to the full board?
Well, I think being select board time, I think it's more about asking about,
Okay, well,
Agenda item.
if you need to have this to come back to the full board, you need to put it on the agenda real fast, because we're going to do it. So, like I said, I just saw it now, and it just came in today. Other than that, everyone that celebrates Easter, I hope you have a really happy Easter. Have a nice meal, hunt for some eggs, have fun. Spring
you.
is coming.
Yeah, spring is here. The big snow pile on my driveway is officially gone as of this morning, which was exciting. And I received an email from the Groveland Garden Club because they have their annual plant sale in May, and their pre-sale is starting now. So
very nice.
be excited and think ahead at what you want to plant in your gardens. That's all I have.
Very nice. Steve?
Nothing tonight.
Ed?
Just one thing, that I know we have a meeting on the 13th, and is there a lot on that agenda for that meeting, you know? It would be just before 2 weeks before the town meeting, but what I'm getting at is, I'd like to see if we could get the highway superintendent in and go over Salem Street from Route 97 to the quarry. And, we've been through, I think it's 2 winters with that minefield out there. It's getting worse. I think we need some answers on when this is going to be done. Is it going to be done this year? I think he needs to come in and explain what's going on out there.
You're talking
We did,
Elm Street to the quarry? Where exactly is that?
the quarry, that's across from Chesterton.
So it is on his Chapter 90 paving program for paving this year. It's not the full length, it's only a patchway until the road work is completed, and then they'll be paving the entire road. But they do plan on doing it in the spring, and they do plan on doing the segment that's the worst from the intersection up a little way past, I think it's like Sunset Circle, a little way further.
So there's no intention of going like past Staunton Road?
From my understanding, there is long-term, but they're gonna make the immediate fixes so that it's not problematic in the interim.
We need a permanent fix.
I believe there's additional road work that is planned. And with additional road work being planned, you're not gonna pave it to tear it up and make it the same condition that it's already in.
Well, let's get the highway superintendent in to explain those things.
So is that a future agenda item that we talked about under selectmen time?
It's his request.
No, that's the schedule of the meeting, future
I did
agenda
the
item.
same- I did the same thing.
Yes.
There we go. Yes.
Scheduling, we'll, discuss that. All right, I don't have anything. We do have some correspondence. National Grid fiscal year 27 annual transmission vegetation maintenance notification and fiscal year audit 2025. And that correspondence. Now, we do have to have a meeting to finalize our warrant.
Yep.
So I propose our next meeting will be April 6th at 6:30. Does that work for everybody?
I think there's a scheduled CPA meeting that night, isn't it, Adam?
We'll post it in a different room.
At 6:30?
I would agree. I do think that it's a priority, get the town meeting warrant posted. I also know that you have
Can we meet at
candidates night
5?
on Tuesday.
You want to meet at 5?
I can't.
Okay, it won't work for the two people that are still working.
5:30?
The 6th, we move up the 13th.
No, we would need to meet both.
Yeah, but we can meet in the different room.
Yep, we can meet in the back meeting conference.
No, we wouldn't interfere with the CPA meeting. Other than the fact that Ed wouldn't be able to attend.
One of them, anyway.
One of them.
All right, April 6th, 6:30?
April 6th,
Well-
6:30?
So no one can make it before 6:30, so that you can still do your,
It would be tough. I mean, 6 would probably be the absolute earliest.
Same. I work till 5:30.
okay.
My commute.
Oh, would you stop? She said,
They are
your
over
commute,
at
I know,
the
it's gridlock, right?
Public
Getting
Safety
out of
Board.
Chesterton. Okay,
All right.
lunch break meeting, everybody run.
So our next scheduled meeting is going to be April 6th at 6:30. Which room are we going to be in, the back room?
We'll be in the back meeting room if that's okay.
We'll be in the back meeting room
Okay.
with our little owl set up in the middle.
And that one, we have the TV screen.
Oh, perfect.
It's covered.
All right, so I take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn at 9:57 PM.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Yep.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.